My son had one.
But it was pretty nice.
Calling to order our second regular meeting for the month of May 2022 of the Village of Ballston Spa Board. Let's stand for the pledge, please. Trustee Fontaine, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess we need to be about 10 seconds slower to really meet that 7:01 p.m. public hearing timing. However, I will cheat a little bit here and begin to ask the clerk if she could read us the sidewalk dining sales law, proposed local law number 1 of 2022, public notice.
Of course. Village of Ballston Spa notice of public hearing to consider adoption of local law notice is hereby given pursuant to section 20 of the Municipal Home Rule Law of the State of New York, that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa on May 23rd, 2022 at 7:01 p.m. at the Ballston Spa Public Library located at 21 Milton Avenue, Ballston Spa, New York, for the purpose of considering the adoption of local law number 1 of 2022. If adopted, local law number 1 of 2022 would add a new chapter 175 entitled Sidewalk Cafe, Outdoor Dining, and Sidewalk Sales. Written comments on local law number 1 of 2022 can be submitted to the village clerk up and through the time of the public hearing. A copy of proposed local law number 1 of 2022 can be obtained at the village clerk's office and on the village website.
Okay, before jumping into public comments, Carla, if you want to just kind of bring everybody up to speed, what the law, or how the law got kind of brought together, and where we stand on it, what we're doing here, and we'll open up the floor at that point.
Sure. So as we all remember, the past 2 years, there have been executive orders in effect that have allowed businesses to have outdoor dining that normally would not have outdoor dining in order to help alleviate some of the issues and the strain with COVID. Because the executive orders are gone, the state of emergency for that portion is gone, everything reverts back to your local zoning, and the Village of Ballston Spa does not have the ability to have retail sales outside or outdoor dining outside in local zoning. So the board thought it was important to aid those businesses to have a law in place on the books to allow that. That's what you have in front of you. It was introduced last week, actually at the special meeting. And over the course of the last week, there have been 2 minor, basically typographical changes. One, it said building inspection instead of building inspector. That was on me. And one, it said FDC instead of fire department connection. So we just spelled that out. Other than that, the same exact law that was put before this board last Monday. So the purpose of the public hearing is for you folks to chat about the law. Let us know if you have any concerns about it. And then at some point during the regular meeting, this board will discuss whether or not to adopt it. Once it's adopted, we will send it immediately down to the Department of State, and then it will be enacted when they file it, which will be within 20 days.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Anybody in the room have any public comments related to this public hearing? Seeing no,
Wait, no.
seeing a hand down back there, I'll call on Anna Stanko. Please come forward if you can.
And Stanko, 32 Kent Street. I just wanted to double check it. People have called me actually about one of the businesses on Front Street, on the north side of Front Street, that again this year has tables. There's not enough room for people to go through. So who will be enforcing that there has to be a walkway through there, or tables are only on one side of the sidewalk versus packing them in on both sides and not allowing public access?
Because it's of our code at this point, code enforcement, which is our building inspector, has that dual role, will be basically the person to handle that. So code enforcement officer is the answer.
And so, you know, the way this works, I'm sure it's not actually in the zoning law, it's just in the sidewalk law itself. But it's a permit. It's a 6 month temporary use permit, and they have to follow all DOH regs, all ADA regs, everything. And if they are in violation, it just goes through your regular violation process, and it's $500 per day for a violation.
Okay, so if somebody,
Just like regular.
when
code
somebody
enforcement.
calls me, I'm gonna say call the village, not
Yep.
call the building inspector, but I mean, because again, it has come to my attention a couple of times in the last week that the sidewalk's blocked.
Right, it is the building inspector that would do it.
And
I
what,
was only here a couple days a week, that's all.
Right, well, they will call Village Hall and put the complaint in.
Okay.
and one thing we should make everybody aware of is we won't accept any permit applications until this is technically in
Right,
the state's filed status at that point in time. So we will let everybody know via the village website when, or our Facebook page most likely is the easiest way, when that'll be available. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room with any public comment? Now seeing none, anybody in Zoom, I'll give you a second to raise your hand. I see no hands up currently. Going once. Going twice. Zoom is at least for now closed. However, I see somebody that gasped when they realized they had something to say. Coming up.
I remember.
Dana Wilmer, 18 Coronado Way. I am with the BSBPA. The village garage sale is coming up on I'm getting my dates from June 11th, the weekend of June 11th. There's some stores and shops who are wanting to do a bit of a sidewalk sale, just having some things out, but against the building. Is that, can we do that? Can they do that now?
As part of the garage sale, have they done that in the past?
Yeah.
I would think maybe we just have a special application for them then for the garage sale. They can fall under the garage sale portion of the code as opposed to the temporary use portion of the code.
So the businesses who do want to participate should fill out a special application for that thing.
Yeah, I'll make sure that we have, well, let me ask Terry. When you do the village garage sale, does anybody have to come to you and ask for a permit fee or a vendor fee or? No.
It's just it's a informal.
We should probably do it though for the businesses, if they're going to do that, if they don't have a temporary use permit already.
Okay.
So I can work with you, Terry, and we can put together an application, because there will be an application that for the permit as well.
Okay, great. Okay. And there wouldn't be fees associated.
That's not my call.
I think there have never been fees in the past, so I'm not sure why we changed course at this point in time. And Sean's shaking his head yes, so in terms of agreement, so we'll go with that.
For the garage sale.
For the garage sale,
Right, there'll be
yes,
fees for the other permit.
Okay.
It's a tradition, it's not organized by any one party.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And remember, please don't go low on your tone because we still want to use it for minutes. Thank you very much on that. One more chance, anybody left here, comments? If not, can I get a motion to close the public hearing at 7:08 PM?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fondenza? Second. Trustee Raymond, any discussion on the closure of the public hearing? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Let's go to minutes approval. Can I get a motion that the minutes of the May 9th, 2022 meeting be approved?
I'll make that one.
Trustee Raymond,
I'll second.
trustee Cormos, any discussion?
were the changes made about the voting?
Yes, I sent you.
And any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the minutes of the May 16, 2022 special meeting be approved? By trustee Fandesa,
I'll second.
trustee Corvus, any discussion?
Well, here I was looking at the minutes that were sent back by Jen, corrected especially. So I'm not sure what was corrected.
Did you read her comments that were in red next to each thing in the email? She explained why she may not have corrected some things,
Oh, I guess the download didn't show the comments.
unless I'm wrong. That's how you did it.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what I did. And actually, the only thing that I changed was that there was a question about taking sidewalk, a question about taking newsletter money out of contingency. What you actually said was taking newsletter money out of the sidewalk budget, and then if the sidewalk budget needed more, that would come out of
Right, yeah, I
contingency.
saw that.
I did make that
Yeah.
adjustment.
I don't have comments on the version you sent me even after downloading it. So I'm not sure if I'll
In
comment.
the email itself, if you go down to your email, she inlaid it in the email.
I took it point by point.
In the email itself.
Since I addressed your comments below, and then in your below email, she appended her comments in the email.
At 11:36 a.m.
Probably.
But as I said, the only change that I made was that one word, and you were absolutely right. I said that you didn't, you were gonna take that you
Yeah.
suggested taking the money out of the sidewalk fund, but you suggested taking the sidewalk fund out of contingency.
So for some reason, I'm not seeing your comments, so I apologize, but either in the email or the thing. But there was another, again, I don't know how big a deal it is, but for example, the extra money for watering, the idea there was we would put in that extra 16.4 in return for making sure that weeding was done. And so that was,
The comment was that the 16.4 was for watering and weeding. It wasn't, it was for watering. The conversation that took place after that statement was then including weeding. And we, Bernadette had agreed, I'm sorry, trustee, then down the, is that close? Close. Okay. Said that as long as the watering entailed some sort of weeding, that you agreed with it, and Christine and trustee Cormos agreed with that, so I left it the way it was.
There's volunteers.
Right, it was volunteers that were, but we did, in the comment, address the weeding issue. But the original statement was only about water.
all right, so in my mind, I was agreeing to that extra funds, and I thought I said this, to make sure the weeding happened, because the watering didn't necessarily need extra funds, but anyway, all right. There's a statement in there that says, and maybe it's because it happened early, 10,000 expense has been added to the budget, for family funding and other events in the village. And I guess that's a summary of where we started.
That's where we
right?
started, several paragraphs below that,
And then
the mayor
below
mentioned
changes.
what the compromise ended up.
The other, and then just the last piece that I thought we had talked about different places was the importance of needing a budget. Or we would allow these expenses, but we want a budget in return, a specific budget.
Your other comment was that you were okay with making adjustments to the budget as long as there was reasoning behind that. That comment did come in the conversation about the SPPA and needing the $3,000 for media
Right.
is when you said that. It didn't come during the senior conversation.
I know Liz also repeated that during the meeting, that we wanted budgets for like the bathroom and whatever, and family fun day. That was an important piece of getting the money, of getting budget. So anyway, we're saying it here.
Read that in the record. if it's-
Right. Okay. Thank you, Jen, for going back and forth with me. I don't see any comments, so I don't know what my computer setting or what, or the document itself.
Like, for instance, just take a look, that's.
Yeah, it's not showing up on
We have a motion to second. Any further discussion or any other movement on this that you choose? Then let's go to vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Normally we go to mayor announcements right now, but because of some family stuff going on, you'll notice to my left, Julia is not here, but further to my right, she is here on our screen to give us the treasurer's report and some discussion about some of the things that happened last Monday that we have to further discuss a little bit here. So Julia, take it away.
Okay, so I'll just go on with the treasurer's report first and then reiterate on Monday night's budget amendments. So going forward with my treasurer's report, as a general reminder, tax bills and meter reading cards are getting ready to be sent out. They should be arriving around June 1st. Property owners who do have escrow accounts established will have their tax bills sent directly to their associated date. If you, for some reason, get your tax bill sent to you and you have an escrow, go ahead and send it to your bank directly. Summarizing on April activities are as follows. Sales tax revenue collected totaled $117,777 in April. This brings our total fiscal year to date to $1,203,580, which puts us about $203,580 over what was anticipated in the budget for this year. And obviously we're still pending May receipt. Following that, rental of real property, otherwise known as the payments we received from the cell tower lease agreements, have totaled $75,365.33 for the year. This is $24,507 ish over what was anticipated in the budget. And again, still pending May rentals. The reason I mentioned that is just to reiterate and justify the budget amount numbers that we have for fiscal year 2023, just as a trending upward. We're just trending upwards in terms of sales tax revenue collected and as well as the cell tower lease agreements. Continuing on for April activities, the village received pool contributions from Town of Milton, which brings the total income from the pool for this fiscal year to $51,678. Seeing that the pool is going to open, I believe, sometime in June, this is what we will be collecting for this fiscal year. This is also $24,507 over what was anticipated in this budget. So going, and I also want to mention that this fiscal year, we did receive 2 payments from Milton, one in October at the end of that year, and one this April. Going forward, this payment will be sent out in April, so revenues for the pool this fiscal year will be higher than they usually would be. Other large receivables in April that I kind of talked about in previous treasury reports is the receivable, the revenue that we received from the DASNY grant, or that 5-project construction project that we had that ended up with Saratoga Avenue. This final payment equaled $103,885. And the last large receivable was $266,016.53. This money was from CHIPS for the paving cost. I mean, CHIPS is one of the many programs that we were reimbursed from. This money was anticipated to be around $137,000, but due to increased funding, we received that increased money back after submitting for CHIPS. Going on to April expenses year to date. As of the end of April, the expenses for the year should equal approximately 92% of the total budget. To reiterate how we are on each fund, the general fund has spent 80%, sewer fund 50%, and library fund 87%. The sewer fund is at the current percentage due to pending entries related to finalizing / wrapping up that one particular grant involving Saratoga Avenue. That wraps up the treasurer's report, and I do kind of want to reiterate on one of the topics about the special meeting held last week. So we all, or those who were there, know that the board finalized some budget amendments related to this upcoming fiscal year budget. based off of the amendments that were approved, while it wouldn't have been an issue before the budget was adopted, while I was summarizing them to get ready to send back out to the board, just so they can have in their files, I did realize that one of the budget amendments, which increased the library funds from the school district, would have been used to offset some of the additional expenses that were amended for the general fund. And again, while that wouldn't have made a big deal or a big difference before the budget was adopted, since it was adopted, that would change the levy amounts for each fund. So with that said, I had proposed an option to reduce the paving funds for next year, the village funded portion of paving, not the CHIPS portion, just by that $6,922 that we were proposing, increase for library funds, which would have reduced the general fund expenses. Just because we have that new increased programs available in CHIPS. That to be said, there were some opinions about not reducing paving for this upcoming year, just because of the way paving has occurred this last year. So that to be said, I do still have a proposal out there to help balance those budget amendments from the special meeting on Monday that we need to come to a resolution to fix.
Julia, what was paving in terms of the last couple of years versus what the current budget for next year, if we don't touch that number, if we include both the village's share and CHIPS or other possible funding that we receive?
Yeah, so this last fiscal year, the current one that we're in, we actually only anticipated about $137,000 worth of CHIPS funding. That to be said, we were all kind of pleasantly surprised when CHIPS increased the funding to about $266,000, and that's what that huge revenue was that I was just briefly talking about in my treasurer's report. To be said on that, we thought it was kind of a one-time program funding increase, but we actually got the paperwork for this next fiscal year paving, and we are anticipating about another $266,000 worth of funding from the state related to CHIPS for paving. Now, that does not include the funding that the village has put aside. So the past, I want to say 3 years, this might be the third or the fourth fiscal year that we have, the village has put aside some additional money for, and that is $110,000. We kind of match what we kind of could almost guarantee from the state, which is usually around $110,000. So that to be said, what we do have in this upcoming fiscal year, while it's not budgeted, we do have the $266,000 from the state, and then we have the $110,000 of village funds to put into that. This past year, we had about $360-ish thousand that we put into it. So, I mean, I don't think $6,922 to deduct just to make these budget amendments balanced would be make or break when it comes to reducing the paving for next year.
Julia, last year, did we end up going over our projected budget on paving?
Yeah, and that was because the CHIPS funding was not where we had actually got reimbursed for. So like I kind of just mentioned, we had only anticipated about $137,000. So that's why we did quote unquote go over for budgeting for paving. But when the state issued out larger funding pools of money for different programs, we actually were able to put back money to the contingency that we took out when we went quote unquote over budget. And actually, if we wanted to recognize more of that money, we could have put it back into the village portion funding as well. But just to make contingency back up to where it should have been, we recognize that revenue, so we didn't go over budget just due to the increased funding from the state.
So essentially, the additional CHIPS made us whole.
Oh, absolutely, more than whole. Yep.
By about 80,000 more than whole, 75, 80,000, was it?
Yeah, it was about 130,000 more than we were anticipating. About double what the state normally has out for the village.
Any other discussion and thoughts on that aspect of things?
Well, CHIPS money is for particular uses, so that can't be touched for,
Correct. She said we wouldn't touch chips, it would be the village side funding.
we've been setting aside additional money for paving, so that we can catch up with a lack of paving. I do believe, under CHIPS, you can carry funds from one year to the other. I just don't think it's a great idea to be spending budgeted money that's for a particular type of use on another use.
Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, are we not carrying over 60 to $70,000 or thereabouts from this current year's paving to next year because of the more than ample CHIPS amount? Is that how it's gonna work, or explain to me how that will happen?
No, so due to the increased funding, what we normally do is try to get as much expenses that we had for paving reimbursed by the state as long as the funding is available. So there is no rollover from this past year's paving into next year. What is available next year is that full $267,000 just due to increased funding. But in that case, if you are referring to rollover, if the village did decide to not utilize all the funding from the state for CHIPS, yes, that money could roll over.
I don't know, but my personal opinion is, given that pavement is basically a petroleum-based product, I think that taking any money away from paving, I still think we could go over. And so I'm not in favor of it. I think that it's not fiscally, to be a steward of the village, it's not fiscally responsible to take away from a budget, basically rob a budget of a need to fund a want. So, and most of the things we discussed in the budget amendments are wants, not needs. And I certainly wouldn't take from something that was based on an 11-year plan that was developed between our superintendent and the former mayor. And these are the targets that he needs to hit to stay on that plan. Now, you realize $7,000, $7,000, even at the current market price, buys 100 ton of asphalt. 100 ton of asphalt can go a long ways, but it also could not. And just because his estimates on what he needs to do doesn't mean that when he actually gets into the project, that estimate's going to hold. A lot of things change. I just don't think on principle it's a good idea to take away from something that's so critical as DPW and infrastructure, highway infrastructure, to finance, something that we're going to get 5 to 7 years of value out of that money in paving versus 1 year of value or 1 day of value. I just don't think that's fiscally responsible.
Can I give you an anecdote to at least lighten the mood for half a second? In former life, yours truly, when he was doing summers, actually was put out in the paving business. My family, my father and grandfather ran one. And after 2 summers of doing it, I looked at the financials of everything that was going on around me. And I devised at the age of 16 a buyout plan for the paving because I never wanted to go out there and do that labor anymore. It sucks. So trust me, I understand the paving business and what you're getting at, and that's how I know you're correct, that it is based on petroleum. However, there is a limit to the level of what petroleum increases due to the pricing. I saw some hand over here. I will remind us though, on the other side of what you're saying, that we did take $4,000 for a newsletter out of sidewalks. So I'm not sure how consistent that statement was, but.
Well, I think information to all the village residents is very critical. And that's something that getting it to every resident's door, I think that is a priority. it increases government transparency, and, yeah, we didn't actually take 4,000 from the sidewalk budget, though.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you took some of it.
We took 800.
I think if there is additional funds that we don't spend out of the village part of the paving, that should go into other transportation issues, permanent improvements, repairing sidewalks, crosswalks, something like that. I mean, a like use, not a completely unrelated use.
So you have $7,000, $6,922 shortfall. What's your plan for it?
I don't have a particular plan. I don't like robbing from, budget that was voted on and passed. There's always, the fun house. If you feel that is so critical to add that 7,000, it shouldn't come out of, like I said, you shouldn't try to rob some budget line at this point that's already been passed.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, we basically have 30-something thousand dollars worth of stuff that we approved last week, 38,000, give or take. So essentially now we would have to name where the 6922 would come out of, and nobody's really put forth that or the alternate. So I've been kind of waiting all week to hear what the ultimate answer is here, which way to go with that, and I haven't heard any kind of consensus. We kind of owe it to folks that put forward those requests to let them know where they stand getting into this budget year, I feel like.
Well, again, all those amendments were things that weren't in the original budget, but basically to be considerate, we opened up budget negotiations again, which is highly irregular, but in the spirit of goodwill, we did so. I mean, at this point, yeah, there was some errors in the calculations. I mean, at this point, to take away from something that is so critical and necessary for things that, again, are a want, not a need. I'm just not comfortable with that. You're welcome to propose something. I mean, we do have reserves. If that's what you want to do, then we can do that. But I agree with Trustee Colonos. I don't think we should, rob from Peter to pay Paul.
And you're about to say something? No, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we're talking about this is because we were trying to compromise and meet some needs that you identified, with the bathrooms and other things. And so it's not like we're all sort of moved to this situation together. It's not like any one person's fault or anything like that. If you're comfortable with it, I'd be comfortable spending some money from the general fund. We have increased revenue. We're not poor, in the context of surplus. And so I'd be open to that conversation.
Right, that you're about to say?
Yeah, just a question. I feel like if somebody can refresh my memory, the DPW didn't think they could even burn through that money, right, for additional money. I feel.
A little bit louder. Because
Sorry.
you're struggling.
If someone could refresh my memory, I feel like in discussion, it was said that the DPW didn't even think they could do all that with that additional funds.
I had a
Shaking
discussion
your head,
today with Jeff Gowries, and that is not entirely accurate. So, and in reality, we can spend more than that, obviously. Whether or not time is available is a question. But again, that isn't a finite, determined thing. Maybe we can't, maybe we can. It all depends on how things play out. Again, I just don't think taking away from something that we could easily go through. And also understands, as I said today, every time we do a repave job, we're supposed to make all the crosswalks and all the corners ADA compliant. So that's ramps, the detectable barriers, concrete work, And all of that is under CHIP funding and our additional funding. So I'm including also, we get into it, we might have to replace drainage structures. So I'm just saying that you may think it's a lot of money, but it could go really, really fast. So I'm simply not in favor from taking away from a budget that we went over last year. Yes, we were made whole, but we didn't know that. And we don't know if we will be if we end up going over this year. So.
I mean, we could chip away at this. I'd be okay spending 3,000 instead of 4,000 newsletter, and just the first year, the experiment, putting it out 3 times, once every 4 months, because it probably takes some time to like get the process and all that. In fact, I was going to ask Julia maybe later, but when our deadline is for submitting something for it, because usually it goes out in the water bill. Be nice to be able to, put something together and that wouldn't cost anything, just goes in the water bill. So we actually, so anyway, so that could be that.
Tax bills, meter reading cards are getting ready to be sent out, so I think you missed the boat on this one.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's too late or not. But something to find out.
Julie, you can let them say hi to us, don't worry.
And then the other piece, I would say that the watering of the plants isn't necessary for the watering to be every single day. Again, it's not the 6,900, but it's another 1,000 that could be saved potentially. So I don't know if we want to talk about those different things, but
We really want to spend all this time discussing this, make a proposal.
I think I kind of asked you to, because you were the one against the paving, so it kind of usually works that way. So you're saying what?
Take it out of fund balance.
And what about the $1,000 situation with the newsletter that Ben's suggesting?
well, that's if we're worried about $1,000 here or there.
I'd rather send it out 4 times. I mean, I'd rather frankly send it out every other month to let people know what's going on in the village, but let's start with quarterly.
Liz, I hear we have better ratings than Netflix with their meetings lately, so.
Well, that's for people who frequent Facebook, that's not everybody.
Or a generic streaming service that I shouldn't name names of. Is that what you just said?
Not Bridget.
Okay, fine.
I mean, we're spending a lot of time on this.
Well, what do you think about using fund balance?
I usually, when that type of question comes up, I say, hey, Julia, what do you think?
Wow, she's not an elected official.
Well, I trust the people that we've hired to answer questions like these because they know our status better than we do any given day.
I can actually talk about a little bit more that what Sean proposed, he utilizing reserves. I think, Sean, what you're referring to is actually fund balance. If I'm wrong, correct me now. Okay, so here's my thought process. If the board is willing to utilize fund balance instead of paving this year. So basically fund balance is any revenue that we had in surplus and any expenditures that we didn't utilize. Basically, that's what it is at the end of the day. So if you're willing to use fund balance for $6,922, I think initially I would prefer to take it out of paving. And if we go over paving, we use contingency or fund balance, or if we go under paving, I think it's kind of something that is not even an issue at that point. So I'd prefer not to use reserves because I feel like that's kind of the same thing at the end of the day. If paving goes over, we're using fund balance, or if it goes under, then I guess this, potentially going over budget with paving isn't really much of an, an argument at this point. So that's why I kind of want to, persuade against using fund balance, because at the end of the day, it's just unused revenue or or not meeting the budgeted expenditures. So if that's kind of your reasoning to make up that $6,922 difference that we do need to find prior to any of those budget amendments being made, that's kind of where my head is going to again, is just, reducing the village portion of paving. If we go over, we're going to use fund balance. or contingency. If we go under, then, you know, it wouldn't be.
Julia, so couldn't we do the other way around too? Couldn't we leave the paving in? And if for some reason we went under a paving budget, we could make a transfer back into the general.
You could, but generally it's preferred just in municipal accounting reasons to not take fund balance.
Obligation.
Let's let her talk.
It's generally utilize something that's currently budgeted versus the fund balance first, just because we don't try to put money back into fund balance until the end of the year. That's generally when our fund balance gets boosted up for that unused revenue or underused expenses.
But we can do it.
I wouldn't recommend it, honestly.
That's not the question I'm asking. Can we?
I
do
mean,
it?
you can take out money from fund balance to put it in for this purpose, and at the end of the year, it goes back to fund balance. That's essentially what we're doing at every year end.
If we have additional funds, if we.
Correct.
Okay, so why not take it out of fund balance, because that isn't a designated, you know, it's fund balance, and what is our current fund balance?
At the end of last year was that 2.3, and I think I have a projection around about 3 million for the end of this year. Cumulative 3 million, not an additional.
So Julia, what percentage of our current fund balance does $6,922?
Not much. What is that, about 0.2%?
Thank you.
Someone will make a motion. I'm open. I can't make it myself. Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Mayor can't make a motion.
Wants to, but it isn't usually make a motion.
Yeah. No,
Sorry.
no, I have second motions. I made motions.
Well, I'm fine with making a motion to use a fraction of a percent from fund balance.
So let's be specific. We're making a motion. You want to make a
For the-
motion?
I wanna make-
Here, I'll do it for you, and then you say, okay, how's that? Can I have a motion that $6,922 be allocated from fund balance to the budget transfers that were agreed to during the May 16th, 2022 special meeting?
I'll make that.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Julia, are you okay with the wording of that motion?
Yes, that works.
Carla, are you okay with the wording of that
That's
motion?
fine.
Get on the fly, folks, I'll tell you. No discussion again from us? All in favor?
Yeah, I mean, we just point out that one of the reasons we're doing this is so we can have a family fun day. Right? That's a big piece. I mean, I know the money comes from multiple places,
Well,
but.
I stated during this, there was 38,000+, actually, I think that being 42,000 when the newsletter got thrown in. So to identify one location it's coming from, I don't think is fair or appropriate, to be honest with you.
What was the assigned budget for Family Fun Day from the previous amendment? Was it 77? And this is 7, right?
With an option of 1,500 more,
What?
with the option of 1,500 more.
They suggest we match.
If we match it,
Right, if you.
get the checkbook ready.
Okay. Are we done with the discussion? Because when I call for a vote, usually that's supposed to happen at that point. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Julia, I know it's a little bit of singing going on back there. American Idol ended last night though, so you got a year to prep for next season. You're good. Anything else from you? Go ahead, go forth and be mom. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, mayor announcements, got several, here we go. The pool was mentioned, so I got 3 announcements specific about the pool. It is opening, give or take, on June 13th. We'll start with after school hours on weekdays, weather pending, and weekends 12 to 6. Then regular hours will start around the 26th of June, 1 to 7 p.m. In July until 8 p.m. and weekends 12 to 6. That'll happen until August 14th. Then on August 15th until Labor Day, there will be shortened hours to be announced. Swimming lessons, in-person signups will be on June 18th and 19th from 9 a.m. till noon. The dates for the lessons will be announced during that sign-up process. Trustees need to listen to the fee schedule proposal here for the pool because we'll vote on it at the next meeting. But please just pay attention to that, and I'll explain what's going on here. For Town of Milton residents, it will be $2 per day, $50 for a season pass and lesson registration, and $160 for a family. The towns of Malta and Ballston, residents of those municipalities will pay $3 daily, $70 for a season pass, and didn't break it down to family. It might be slightly more if we even do a family pass for Malta or Ballston. I'll let you know that when we get the official motion next time. If you have any issues with that, let me know by email, probably the best way to do it. We can discuss that.
And it's basically Milton does provide funds.
Correct.
And
Yep.
Malta and Boston do not.
You got it.
Reasonably different.
Good news, the Brownfield Opportunity Area Grant, or BOA, as you've heard us refer to it before, we were awarded $153,000 for use until March 31st, 2027 for brownfield cleanup and revitalization. The next stage is the contract process and essentially assessing scope. And we will be in the near term assessing using Elon and Lisa Nagel to assist with the next steps. We have to work that all out, but we do have a contract in front of us with the state to take advantage of that $153,000 in funds. The next meeting presentation, just want to give you a preview, on June 13th will be by Community Emergency Corps to meet with their new leadership. I was asked to actually do that tonight, but knowing that we might run a little long here tonight, I wanted to put that off until next time. Had a meeting with the town of Milton on Friday last week about Woods Hollow. Now, folks here might not know what that is. It is a piece of land owned by the village in the town of Milton, not connected to the village. We are exploring some issues here because the town has been maintaining it. We haven't been. It's kind of falling apart a little bit in terms of condition. And it used to be a reservoir. We're just assessing whether there is any need we have of that property, aside from the fact we have a water main that goes through there that we can get an easement to maintain ultimately. So Carla, Jeff, and Don Rhodes, we were talking about this earlier after you left Liz and Ben in a meeting. We're all going to assess that property, make sure we don't have any other need, and then assess whether to sell it to Milton or how to really dispense with it, because ultimately they don't want to maintain it anymore if it's not their property. We want to keep it somehow hiking parkish type of place, but we can't really afford to do that ourselves. So it might be best in Milton's hands. Stay tuned for more on that. I just wanted to update everyone about that meeting and what might be coming forward from that. Bernadette and I had a further discussion. You may have heard the name Steve Loco from last week at New York State Department of Transportation. We had gotten an update on Church Ave crosswalk that was consistent with some of the things that we talked about last week. But we also wanted to discuss with him an issue with the Ballston Avenue High Street intersection that you may have seen a rollover accident occur recently, and other problems have cropped up with that intersection along the last year or so. Bernadette, why don't you take that?
Yeah, so just to update everyone, DOT has already asked their Saratoga County Maintenance team to talk to our DPW about what can be done to maintain that embankment on the southeast side of that intersection, which is that big hump, and it's hard for people to see. So they're going to discuss some options about what can be done. Additionally, they've requested that last accident report and are going to add it to other accident reports and details that they have from previous data to figure out some sort of get a whole idea of what's going on there and what are the contributing factors that kind of make that a scary intersection. So we just want to make sure people know that we already talked to DOT about this, and conversations are happening.
They seem to have pretty good awareness that the berm or kind of the bridge that you need to look beyond. You may be too high, might be things that we can do with that ultimately, or they can do. with the property owner's help. So things are definitely being taken, or things are being looked at there in that zone to make that a safer zone. So appreciate that.
A point of interest, there is specific money for safety. And that is based on accident history. So if there are, significant dollars, I don't think DOT would spend money on private property or even in our right of way. So I'm not sure, who's gonna pay for improvements.
Stay tuned, as they say, because first they have to assess exactly what will work best, and then we'll go from there to figure that part out. Go ahead.
I am aware of a prior case study at that particular intersection. Because, high level accidents, there does appear to be a sight distance issue there because of the berm. I think the biggest wrinkle is that DOT doesn't have enough right of way to effectively treat that berm. So either would require a temporary easement or a permanent easement to either step that berm back to provide more sight.
Like it offers Steve, since I know the property owner, to put them in touch if need be. Ultimately, again, let's let them finish their work to figure out with DPW what the best.
The other piece I just like to
is.
add into the conversation if possible is sidewalk system is badly lacking in that intersection. And so as they look at safety of automobiles, it would be great if that dimension could be added into the conversation about if you're going to work on that and work on the berm, is there a way to improve the pedestrian safety in that area? Because it's really impossible to cross on foot.
People actually cross over the private property. You can see a
Yeah, that's
path.
the trail we use.
Everybody uses that trail, which, isn't ideal. And the sidewalk on either side of that property. So really, there's a real need to incorporate a pedestrian access around that corner.
It's a tough pedestrian access corner because you have Route 67 with no stoppage and a hill playing a role there. So I'm not sure what you can do realistically to make it something that would be desirable to cross, but something that can be added to discussion.
Right, you might not cross there, but you might do something. If you're doing something with the berm, you could put a sidewalk potentially on that berm at a lower, and then have it be a corner on that property. So you're not crossing 67, but you do have a sidewalk to get down.
That probably will rely on what the right of way really is for the DOT in that situation. Want to read a letter of resignation I received earlier today from Lori AC for the Public Safety Committee. Dear Mayor Rossi, I hope this finds you well. I'm writing to let you know that due to several commitments I have regarding my role as Library Board of Trustees member and volunteer work, I am reaching out to let you know that I will need to resign as chairperson of the Public Safety Committee. I am so pleased with the work that we accomplished on the committee. It was an absolute pleasure to collaborate with everyone in our group. We feel very proud of Ballston Spa and the police department. She goes on to talk about new member Homer Nathan and her outreach to him, but ends by saying, I wish everyone in our group the best, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to get to know you all and to work alongside each of you. Be well, Lori. Appreciate that letter of resignation. And we will, if you allow me, add the acceptance of that letter at the end of the meeting tonight in the motions. I've got a lot of calls on the Beehive building, or 103 East High Street, for those that don't know that nickname of it. Just to update everybody, new ownership has taken that building over, and they did apply for a building permit to convert to a 4-unit building. They were denied that permit because of the non-conforming status of the R1 zone that is located in. The ownership is planning to seek a special use zoning relief soon, and go into a planning process if they're able to do so. So Carla, anything I'm missing on that? Because I know you've been talking to our building inspector.
No, Dave and I met last week and we went through all of it, and the good news is it is under new ownership. And I don't see any reason why it won't go through the special use permit process. It'll just take a little bit of time. But the new owner seemed very interested in working with the village and getting it from an 8-unit to a 4-unit. And since it's decreasing, it's really minimizing the nonconformity.
You'll have to get a variance on the off-street parking too.
They'll probably need to do a lot, but the first thing they need to do is the special permit.
Water districts, we've talked about. I just want to kind of go on the record on something here because we've been having a lot of inquiries. we've been receiving requests for village water hookups in the town of Milton, outside of the village boundaries. But we have a number of water district issues we're working to resolve with Milton that were identified by our water feasibility study. We are working to ensure water needs are met, but there may be delays in accommodating the requests as we ensure a potential consolidation of water districts in Milton is the best option. Carla and Don Rhodes and I are all working with this. I know Don probably brought up some of this to Ben and Liz, brought it up to Sean and I when we met. So we are making sure the soundest legal service provision options for outstanding requests from Milton residents outside the village are done here. So don't be impatient with this if you can avoid that, because we are working hard to make this happen. It's just going to take a little time. There may be some interim things we can do. We're assessing those, and we're going to be working with the town of Milton to make sure that works too. It's just making sure we're doing it legally and in a way that's going to be consistent for the future as well. I can't wait. Starting on the June 13th meeting, based on some of the back and forth that I received after our last regular meeting, I'm going to do mayor announcements outside of this meeting, starting at 6:30 p.m. Just for something that's going to help get things moving along a little bit quicker for everybody. I'll do them on Facebook Live. We'll get a transcript available as well for them, and we'll attach them to the minutes through incorporation by reference, so that at least they will not be bogging down things well into the night. For the excess time between 6:30 and 7 that occurs, let's say I'm quicker reading these than tonight probably. We'll do Q&A with the mayor. So if you have any questions or thoughts, happy to answer any questions you have. This will not be an official meeting, so there won't be open meetings law issues that we discuss with Carla, make sure that it wasn't running afoul of anything by doing it. But we will put out some information about the way to watch it and everything else as we get closer to that. We have 3 weeks to that meeting, so we've got a little bit of time to get the tech ready. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
My initial reaction is I'm not in support of that change to the standard operating procedures. Mayor announcements, I feel, are an integral part of this meeting. I think it's important for all of us to hear those announcements. I think people will be more likely to tune in if they're planning to come to this meeting and hear those announcements at the regular time. But specifically, I think it needs to be part of the regular meeting. And it is there's many times that we all hear something for the first time in the mayor's announcements, and we might miss that if it's not part of the initial meeting or the meeting itself.
Yeah.
Plus, we could respond to questions or add things to the announcements.
Well, it seems like we have a disagreement about how I'm going to conduct what you call mayor announcements, which means it's the mayor's announcements. Your email from May 11th said, when I say unnecessary commentary specifically, you should be following the agenda. Mayor's announcements is not the time to discuss motions. There's a separate time for that. And it's not time to read the public's letters that is under the public comment period. Well, there's such a letter I read was Lori Acey's, for instance, or Don Rhodes last time. So I'm not sure how that wouldn't be part of it.
Referring to a letter about the PDD, which was later on.
That was not during the mayor's announcement, just so you know.
There was one.
I agree. I mean, the Woods Hollow, that's a discussion. First time I heard about it tonight. No, I think mayor announcements is a part. I don't think if they are kept to items such as these, does not add that much time. You can get them done, what was it, 15 minutes?
So here's the problem, Liz. What you both have just explained is controlling of speech. Basically, how to speak, when to speak, what to provide that speech. In the section, that's my section of the meeting. I don't tell you what to say in your liaison reports. I don't stop you, shortcut you or something like that. I let it flow, and with respect. I've been micromanaged in mayor announcements. I don't think that's fair to the public. And the other thing this is going to allow is that this will become available in a different venue as well, that will be a little bit more permanent, or at least outside of a 4-hour meeting recording, what's normally good news or informational news for folks to attach to, that normally gets lost in these meetings because of the various arguments, discussions, much like this one right now that's going on. So,
Are you going to have staff take minutes of your mayor's announcements?
no, I will be actually paying for, I will be paying for my own transcript for it on my own pocket and
No.
provide it.
You're trying to
And
carve
know
out,
what?
you're
I don't
trying
agree.
to carve out a traditional part of our village meeting into your own thing, and I don't agree.
You can, if you want, say anything you want at any time before the meeting, but then repeat the mayor's announcements during the meeting.
They'll
That
be
would
incorporated
fine.
by reference. I will give you the topics I talked about as a list.
No.
I gotta be honest, Frank, this just seems like you're trying to cut out fellow board member comment
Yeah.
from your announcements.
If there's something that specifically needs to be commented about in terms of, back and forth, if we had a meeting with somebody or something like that, new business and old business exists, liaison reports exist, et cetera. So these are exclusively announcements to the public, like the pool and the opening dates, et cetera, that folks want to know about.
And they should be part of the village meeting.
It's part of the standard operating procedure that we voted on, and I don't think the majority support to take the mayor's announcements out of this meeting. So you can talk about mayor's announcements earlier in the meeting, but then we'd like you to repeat them at the meeting, as has always been done forever.
Well, I appreciate your attempt to direct the mayor on his speech.
It's,
We'll see how this works starting on June 13th.
I mean, the other option would be to print out all your announcements.
I could give you a rough transcript because I'll probably read from it like I do with these.
Right.
So-
And give it to us at that time, and so that.
Or try
when the
to.
actual meeting starts, we could provide comment if we had it. Because we are residents too,
I know.
so,
In my mind, this is an example of you not working cohesively with and as part of the board, but sort of going rogue, doing your own thing because you don't like the process that's been agreed to. And I think it's improper and it's not helpful. We should be trying to work together. And to do these unilateral kinds of changes that are to some degree pretty radical departure from precedent does not help us to work together, does not build trust, does not facilitate communication among ourselves, does not serve the public because they expect mayor's announcements to be part of the meeting. And we expect mayor's announcements to be taken by our staff as part of the official minutes. It's a big departure from how this village conducts business. And it's fine for you to talk before a meeting, but I do not agree with taking mayor announcements out of the meeting itself.
Could I ask Carla, is this something anybody else does?
No one else has mayor announcements that I know of.
Really?
Yes. This is the first place I've seen mayor announcements. I think I told Christine that when we first came in. Yeah, I mean, the mayor did ask me about this. I gave my legal opinion of it. I'll just leave it at that, which is not illegal for him to talk. It's not against anyone for him to talk beforehand. So there's nothing prohibiting it. The one concern that actually Ben did just raise is that in the rules of procedure you did adopt, mayor announcements are part of the agenda. So you will have to continue to have some sort of mayor announcement in that agenda, or you will have to amend that part of your rules of procedure.
Well, like I said, I'll list the topics that.
Yeah, I just want,
Yeah.
legally, that's what you
So,
need to do,
yeah.
but to your point, Liz, no, this is the only place I know of that does mayor announcements.
But it's a longstanding tradition here.
Oh, yes.
That people.
I'm not saying
Forever.
it's good, bad, or indifferent, but it's fine.
It's only been the last several years.
It was in the Romano administration.
It was in the Romano administration because I believe you and I think trustee Shaw asked him to do it.
I never asked it.
Okay, maybe you did, but it started at the very end of his administration.
And now it's a cherished tradition.
A tradition unlike any other.
Anyway, yes,
Are we done on that topic? Because I have something
So-
extremely serious to go to now.
so you're going to share what during the actual meeting?
I set a list of topics that were discussed or read off in that mayor announcements thing at 6:30. I
And
just thought,
you can probably predict we'll be asking you details about each of those topics. So in effect, you'll be doing them in the announcements at the meeting. And it's important because we have minute takers here who need to make sure that the minutes are complete.
I'm going to be providing a full transcript.
But they're not part of the board meeting.
I will incorporate my reference and attach.
I don't know if that would actually make them part of the minutes.
We'll talk about that and discuss, I guess, then. Figure that one
I
out.
assume you're gonna use the same, you're gonna have Zoom and record. this briefing.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So if more than one of us shows up, it's an official meeting.
Not if you're in the audience.
Yeah, well, if you're in the audience and you're not together for the purpose of conducting public business, that is true. Like you can go to a zoning board meeting, and you're not there to conduct public business, but if you're here for the purpose of conducting public business, that if two of you show up, then you have a quorum.
Well, my expectation is going to be to continue to hear the announcements during this regular meeting. That's just-
Well, it sounds like my other option would be to dispense with them entirely, say, my one mayor announcement for tonight is there are none, and move on, and then, I mean, it becomes
That's-
6 to 1, half dozen the other. I'm trying to do it in the most
Is that
transparent,
serving-
informational way.
Yeah, are you serving yourself or are you serving the community?
I'm serving the
Serving the
community.
community.
I am serving the community because nobody remembers the mayor announcements by the time we get done with the 4-hour meeting.
It's in the minutes and we do remember. There are
It's
things
not
that-
in the minutes in that detail level that people want to know about. I'm sure every detail I said about the pool will probably not be in the minutes this week, I guess.
We have a recording of it, if anybody wants to watch it for the details, I'm sure they can.
And they'll remember the pool is gonna open
I
soon.
mean, at least a couple of these topics have to do with village business. The BOA grant and the Woods Hollow. And
There's nothing that's gonna get done with Woods Hollow until we do more evaluation. That was the
no,
announcement.
but the fact that you're discussing Woods Hollow with Milton is pertinent to the board.
Mhm.
And
And this is the
therefore,
first we've heard of it. So it's
Right.
good to talk. It's good to share. You're not just sharing with the public, you're sharing with us.
Are we done with this topic? Okay. Would ask for a moment of silence after I discuss this. Want to mention something that many of you have seen, the passing of Union Fire Company number 2's Edwin Uline, former chief of the Ballston Spa Fire Department, joined it in 1948 and served in the Army in Korea. He died at the age of 92. Services are wake at Armor Funeral Home, Wednesday, May 25th, 4 to 6 p.m. Funeral services are at Armor on the 26th, Thursday at 10 a.m. May he rest in peace and condolences to his family. Liaison reports.
just from the library, just an announcement that on Saturdays, they will be open an additional hour till 3 p.m. Library is open every day except Monday, and on Thursdays, they're open till 8, so you can go in the evening. Park and Tree, one topic that came up, as you know, they're putting in a new playground, small playground for small children. And I think actually the footings are supposed to be in today. There's a
Is this
concern,
community, the one backed by community, et cetera?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, by community emergency force. There's a real concern about, because of the vandalism, they would like to know what is being done with the brand new playground being installed and the vandalism that's been happening, what kind of measures are being taken to make sure that new equipment does not get vandalized. So that's a question that they are asking. And that's it.
Ben?
Just to add to Liz's report, they're also working on a draft tree and shrub planting policy in public places. So if someone wants to plant a tree or shrub, what kind of tree, shrub, where, things like that, because that happens sometimes. So They're just drafting it now. The Ballston Area Senior Center or senior citizens are having a celebrating their official return to the Milton Community Center. And that's going to be June 11th, Saturday, June 11th for members, $10 a year if you're 55 and over. Starts at 4 p.m. The celebration is free. There's going to be a murder mystery dinner and dance. So it's like fun. 310 North Line Road. So, and the Arts Committee is here to give their own report.
They will be up soon. John?
As far as leaf and brush pickup, in reality, we typically end May 15th, but speaking with Jeff, I know that Memorial Day weekend is a big gardening and cleaning weekend for a lot of folks, so we're going to extend it one more week. But basically anything that's out after next week, they usually do pickups on Thursday or Friday, needs to be bundled or bagged. It will not be picked up. So I just hope everyone does their spring cleaning this weekend. And that's all I have.
Where did that? Thank you very much then. Some of you may remember that during our organizational meeting on April 4th, we discussed the Arts Committee, and I wanted to kind of give some time to the Arts Committee to reform, figure out where they were going with things, because it seemed like during the budget workshop, things weren't necessarily 100% together. Then we saw some movement in membership and whatnot. We wanted to give a real opportunity here for things to move forward in a productive, positive manner, and then give a report in one of our May meetings. This is that meeting. So we want to welcome Acting Chair Kate Tiedemann to address our board, and anybody else that she wants to have come up, it's up to you. But we appreciate your time and the presentation, all the hard work that I know you've been putting into this.
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me. So I got little handouts. If you want to just pass down. That one. And that one. So yeah, I'm Katie, for everybody that doesn't know me. Do you have anywhere that you want me to stand?
That is fine. Just make sure you're good and loud for recording purposes. We're all good.
How are that? So it's nice to see you guys. And I'll wait till everybody gets their stuff, but we have been little busy bees. And I kind of just gave you one of our flyers for our planting art project that we'll get into, and one of the, just a quick recap of all of our projects that we got going on.
You're looking at your back on the Zoom.
Oh, thank you.
The camera is
The
behind.
camera's behind you,
Thanks.
so you're gonna go sideways.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Lots of directors, but no
No,
producers.
literally on the carpet, we're gonna get you in the video.
It's on the, you can see yourself on TV.
I'd rather not. Thank you.
Wave to your adoring public and go right ahead.
Okay, no, thank you. Thanks for putting that. So currently, I don't know if you guys have seen anything on Facebook or anything like that or around town. Last year, we did planting art project. We had 4 planters on Front Street that we funded through a mini grant through Saratoga Arts. Those were painted by local artists, and then the BACC and the kids did one. So this year, we're kind of revamping it as a fundraiser. And we're hopefully gonna have a lot of really nice planters painted by local businesses, residents, and have those around town. Be nice little artistic Front Street and beyond. We do have a list of local artists. If people want to hire somebody for that, that's great too. I did pass out flyers for that this weekend. There's a lot of excitement, and I'm excited to see what all the crafty people in our town come up with. We got a $5,000 grant from Saratoga Arts this past spring to do a historical mural of the history of Bee Spa. We were thinking about having it on the side of Augie's. We have to have that area, like the wall on Wiz Wall, have that area kind of looked at. like a carpenter or mason to see if it's going to be not supportive, but smooth enough to be done. The artist that we hired to do it, or that we were planning on hiring to do it, Kendra Farstead, said that she kind of wanted it to be smoothed out. So we'll check that out. But so far, we're planning on having a historical mural, community input. And, I think it's going to be really cool. She's done a lot of cool work, and we're excited about it. The village banners we're just getting ready to kind of put that out now. Kate Van Buren kind of drafted a cool proposal to get a template so they all look uniform and nice and neat, and partnered with Silly Car Designs and Jeff at DPW to get a streamlined process and smooth that all out. We did talk to Mark Bleck and Village Events this past weekend and talked about how we can kind of coordinate, and we're excited to do that. We have 2 package options there. There's a large and a small. I think it's 32 for the large and 20 for the small. Last year, I don't know if you guys remember, we did a summer concert series at Brookside Museum. This year, we're planning on doing that again. I believe there'll be 1 additional concert. Last year it was fully funded by the Musicians Union. This year, we're being asked to contribute half, I believe. So Kathy Hackert is going forward with that and organizing with Brookside Museum to do that. Sweet Ashley Bush is doing our website and our social media. And we're trying to get as much involvement, open to as much suggestion as possible. And any kind of artistic, anything that's going on in the village, we definitely want to streamline through us and through her to promote on the website and on social media. And we're trying to build that little empire. I don't know what the word is. So that's what I got. But do you guys have any questions?
I do, and
Please.
this is more or less just kind of the procedural stuff for
Sure.
me.
Yeah.
When you get some time, could you send me a list of your members, and to the degree that you can tell who's out, who's in, were there formal
Got it, right here.
resignations? Great. So just,
Acting chair, Katie
Yep.
Tiedemann, secretary, Kate Van Buren, Karina O'Brien, Kathy Hackert, Ashley Bush.
now, how did that differ from when we kind of entered the official year, as we call it? Because I remember some changes occurred. Did you lose anybody or along the way? Is it Heather the only one?
Yes, we had 1 resignation.
That would have been,
And it was,
Yeah, she resigned.
she resigned and was replaced by
I
that.
actually.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And then the only other modification we had was that Karina Oberoi and Heather were co-chairs. And since Karina has stepped down from her role, and we elected in Katie as our chair. So Karina's still on the committee. She just doesn't hold a officer role.
And the reason I ask this is because there are procedurally things we have to do with respect to membership and chairs and stuff like that. That's why I have to use that acting word for now to
Yes, yep.
figure that out. So I mean no disrespect from that when I
Oh, no,
use
take
that. Okay, I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Do you have comments?
I've noticed your Facebook page is really neat.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
Ashley's doing a killer job.
no, really, profiling.
Yeah,
artists
any
and-
suggestions, like I said, that you guys
Yeah.
have, anything artistic that you know of that's going on in the village? We want to do artist profiles and promotion and kind of highlighting some of our really creative folks.
And remind people art isn't just painting and stuff, it's
Yeah.
music, it's theater, it's photography, it's
Totally.
everything, so.
So do we have a connection with the events that you're in charge of versus the potential newsletter that we put out so that we can, get those events out to as many people as
Right.
possible?
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you have dates for your concert yet or
No, Kathy's doing it now.
not? And just make sure you probably know that the coordinate with ESBPA and all the other places that have concerts, so we don't.
Yes.
We don't currently, I don't, Ben, he's sort of, I guess, the acting liaison to our committee.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had like a standing conference on Wednesdays, but interesting what you're doing. I don't know if you're more available, but.
Well,
We can,
Probably not, but
well, we should discuss this. I've already,
Right.
attending library,
sure.
half, park and tree and share.
Fred, we can talk about offline either a different day, or if we can just send you the notes.
Yeah, we
and
can.
fill you in.
Date another way.
When are you meeting?
First and third Wednesday.
First and third Wednesday.
When our meetings was question, first and third Wednesdays was the answer
Yes.
in this room right here.
Yep.
Thank you. Also want to open up to public, anybody in the room or on Zoom that might want to ask any questions. I see Lisa, go ahead.
So I have a question with the banners, because I'm confused. You said $23 and.
No.
32.
Number, how many they're gonna do.
Oh, okay, like, so this is like, you have to do the whole thing, this is not an individual thing, like.
Right, so it's like a small and large package, so what is it, 20 banners and then 32
Okay,
banners.
so I didn't hear the package part, that's where I was
That's okay.
confused, I was like totally confused, I'm like, holy crap, that's a hell of a lot cheaper than we discussed at that committee, and I'm like, I want one on my side, you know, my goal.
And to be clear, all the banners are the same size. So
True.
a smaller package means that there's 20 bowls as recommended by Jeff versus 32 bowls as Jeff counted them for us. And everything. So they have to do with the number of bowls that we have.
Could you clarify the banner, because people
yeah,
don't
I'm like,
understand,
what are
I
you
was at the
talking
meeting,
about?
so I understand what you're talking about.
Banners of what?
I'd rather have you say, because you've been working directly with Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely, come on.
Are these the veterans? Are the veterans banners going back up?
Well, let's let them tell us.
Okay.
Kate Van Buren, 105 South. So in the past, we've had, and maybe Jeff, you can fill in the gaps here, we've had banners on the light poles.
Yeah.
On both Front Street as well.
Yeah,
as,
sponsored them.
Right, great. And so in the fall of last year, the Committee on the Arts was asked to kind of coordinate what we do on a go-forward basis. There was some inconsistencies in terms of when, what banners were up, where to get them, how much to pay, how big they were. We actually had a couple of different sizes, some with grommet, some without. And so there was some inconsistencies that the administration asked us to say, let's put some structure around this, get some consistency on the calendar, work with Jeff for what's up when and when's it down and which banners are up during which segment, sections of the year. We want to make sure that we don't overtax DPW by saying, well, we want this one up this weekend, that one up 2 weeks, ago, right? So we're trying to partner both with Jeff to make sure that we do this well and have a good structure around them. So we've come up with this proposal, we just drafted it. As I say, we just met with some events teammates of ours that we're collaborating with to make that happen and figure out, okay, what's that calendar look like? When did it start? What should we put up when? Where do the banners go when they're not up? That kind of thing. How do we validate that what's on the banners is appropriate, that kind of stuff. So that's the process that we, the committee, have put together. And as I say, we've got a couple more conversations to have, and then it's kind of go live. I've already mentioned it to Dana of the BFBPA that says, so organizations, community organizations can participate and get these packages for banner production and rehang later, whatever. Is that helpful?
So are the veterans banners, did I miss them?
So we don't have them. We'd have to talk to Jeff as to where they are. When I asked Jeff, I said, so the BSCSD Reader by Design banners are up now because the last set of banners came down, that was the launching pad banners after their show was produced. And so candidly, just so we didn't have naked bulls up there, he stuck them up there and said, I wait for your recommendation as to what to put up there. I called him since then. I said, what else have we got? And so that's an ongoing conversation that we're having.
Would have been nice to have those up for Memorial Day parade.
If they existed
where they
in
are.
some kind of readily
Where they
available
are.
fashion, I guess, yeah.
Somebody knew where they were at.
Mark, go ahead.
Just so, and Mark Blake, 10 Thompson Street. The veteran banner, the promise that I made with the veterans was that when they were done, they were paid for by, like yourself, to be put up for 6 months. When they came down, we told the veterans they could have it as a present to them. So we dropped them off at
Oh, that makes sense.
we dropped them off at VFW, excuse me, and they distributed them to the Legion also. And then some people did pick them up that aren't a part of them, like the champagnes and all that. So The plan was that we would do another series of veterans banners, but then everything fell apart. Because so many people were interested in that.
Oh, yeah, that worked.
Yeah, so
So
There's
now we're
your
just
point
like,
for next year. We want veterans banners back.
We're trying to put that back together, in terms of kind of a banner program for the village.
but who would pay for them then? If-
Sponsorships.
Well, no, they're not talking about getting sponsorship.
Oh,
We're talking about,
whatever.
so the veterans then,
Thank you.
the way your structure works, the VFW would have to pay for them, or the Legion, correct? They would have to
Or they
pay.
could find
Or they can
sponsorship.
have sponsorship. I mean, it's okay.
Okay,
We
so
don't, we don't specify who
Okay.
pays for the production of the
There's an attorney to my right that's suggesting putting up graduating seniors possibly in.
I've actually seen that, in different- not that I had any,
Well,
but I have seen that in different villages having the seniors pictures up.
2 years ago, we did the graduating sports kids. Because they were unable to finish their year with,
Oh, right.
and that was a great program.
Theater kids too. probably.
Yeah.
Because your
They-
son is in the theater, correct?
Banners every week.
The sports parents, they called the, whatever, approached us, and Larry asked me to spearhead that, and so we got that up, so.
Bob,
Okay, thank you.
I was wondering, because I hear a lot about what you guys have for the adults, but what do you guys have for the kids? Do you get to work with the kids or something to do? Because in the past, we've done birdhouses, which was a great thing for the kids and their parents to do, and then
And
we
we
would
have
introduce
these
the kids
throw
to it.
banners and.
Is there any plan for the kids to do?
So that's a good note. We can definitely work it in. When I joined in 2020, the focus was, there was a lot of things going on for kids at that point, thanks to Mark and all his hard work. So at that point, it was to focus on something else.
Because I know in the village, there's a lot of great artists, musicians. and
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
forth. And we have 1 or 200 band up in the fire company that play for us. So-
Sorry, what was that?
Union Fire Company band.
Oh, cool.
So.
Yeah,
I'm just- I just-
That would be
there's a lot
something
of
great that
talent.
actually could promote for sure. Absolutely. If you wanted to, you could definitely email us and let us know the deets on that. It'd be awesome.
But I definitely want to agree with the notion of getting our youth involved. I think that's where we're going to find continuation of your committee in the long run, getting them involved. I think grandson will go to college and,
Sure.
but eventually they'll come back and want to still be a part of it. I think that's how you get some long range traction on a committee like yours that we maybe have struggled to get along the way the first couple of years that it's been around. And, you don't start committees just to have them disappear after a year or two. So I definitely want to see some longevity built that way if we can do it.
Well, I think the mural will involve children, right?
There is definitely community involvement, not specified towards children. I know that, like I said, Kendra's looking for helpers and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely.
We're looking for ideas too, sorry. We're looking for ideas too for the mural, like from people from Ballston Spa and growing up, and to throw ideas so we can involve them in the mural. So if we get a lot of the same ideas coming at us at once, we can tell Kendra incorporate this. And we also want to make the mural interactive too. So you can take pictures in front of it. Like, you see some murals have like wings and you stand in front of it, it looks like you have wings, but make it like a Ballston Spa.
And just for minutes, Ashley Bush, right?
Yes, Ashley Bush.
Just for the minutes purposes. Anybody in Zoom with any questions? I see that thing is kind of blocking the hand possibilities. No, none up there. Then I believe we are, except for this.
Sorry, just one fun. I bet you'd enjoy going into Eagle Lee on the second floor. They have a mural that someone painted. It's very well done of sort of the history of, I don't know, the whole history, but it goes through the eras of the village. And it's a certain style, but it's very good and it's worth seeing just to, the artist.
That would be cool, so that there both was and wasn't overlap, where we wanted it.
It was just to spark ideas.
That's cool.
I took pictures, but it's just behind a glass and it doesn't, it's better just to go there and see it.
Definitely, thanks. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be in touch. Okay, old business proposed PDD law, just to update everybody, I think it was the middle last week, Trustee Baskin sent a updated version of proposed PDD law. the most likely direction we're going in tonight, although it's not on the agenda currently, we can add it to it, is a motion to refer it to the planning board. The only comment I'll have, Ben, ultimately on that question is, and I talked to both Terry and to Carla about this, is just specifying that the clerk will have up to 5 business days to get it transmitted so that we can get everything together with respect to that and get it over to the planning board so that you're not holding the clerk accountable for dragging feet or something like that. We'll put a time limit of 5 business days on that. Is that okay to add to that resolution? Do you want to add anything to that discussion right now, or you're okay adding the motion later?
Yeah, why don't we just do the motion and then we can have discussion and whatever discussion we need to as part of the motion. So we'll do that now.
We'll do it inside the body of the motions practice. We'll make it currently Lori's resignation is H, so that's going to be I. We'll make PDD referral, okay? New business, I already talked about the BOA status contract. We had a couple updates back and forth today. There's not need to make it a complete new business item at this point in time based on what I revealed to you already. We thought there may have been more involved, but there wasn't on that. One thing I do want to add, if possible, Union Firehouse's fans, the $9,000 plus expenditure. We all discussed, I believe, agreed that we would add that to this agenda, the purchase of those fans, which will make that J at this point for motions. I also got a letter today, and normally I do not like doing this, but we're kind of going to catch 22 because of the distance till next meeting, 3 weeks. The Union Fire Company is requesting permission to participate in 2 out-of-district parades with our truck engine rescue 14-4. 1, Burnt Hills Annual Parade on Thursday, June 9th in Burnt Hills. 2, Saratoga Springs Flag Day Parade on Saturday, June 11th in Saratoga Springs. The vehicle will be driven to the respective parades, driven in the parades, and then driven back to Ballston Spa by qualified Union Fire Company personnel. Respectfully submitted, Jeffrey Miller, UFC number 2, recording secretary. We did have a conversation, both Terry and I, with Captain Du Bois today about the lateness of this, and Chief Crow. They understand that they need to do a little bit better planning, but I would ask that we add this as a motion to allow these events or their attendance to these events with the truck as K. Any object to that happening later on in motion practice? Okay, so there you go. We were going up to K today with our motions.
One more.
We got one more.
Potentially. We got a request for Pride Month to fly the Pride flag in front of Town Hall.
It's a village offices.
Village Hall, yeah, village offices. And we could also, if we were in the spirit, we could, I printed out the proclamation I shared with everybody. If we wanted to support Pride Month and our LGBTQ plus family and community and neighbors, we could do that as well. This would be the meeting to do it because it starts in June. So
Do you want to push it to a motion discussion for later? Is that how you want to work it, or you want to discuss it now? How do you want to play that?
we,
Is it a motion?
either way, what do you want to do?
You're the one bringing it up.
All right, I mean, we could talk about it now. If you want.
Well, I mean, you want to make a motion.
All right, so the first motion is to fly the Pride flag in front of Town Hall for the month of June
That'll be L.
in celebration of Pride and recognition of Pride Month.
You can read that up later. We'll just call it the pride flag motion for now, just to be a little quicker on it. M would be
Proclamation in support of Pride Month. I made copies for everybody. I didn't know if we would do this or not, so, but I sent it. It's from another town, but it basically just substituted that you have seen, or at least I emailed it to you last week, but it's the same proclamation, only I put in Village of Ballston.
okay. We will get to that on M. So just to recap for those playing along at home or in the room, H will be Lori Acey's resignation. I will be the PDD referral. J will be the Union Fire Company fans. K will be the Union Fire Company events. Motion L will be the pride flag motion, just discussed by trustee Baskin, and M will be the pride proclamation, just discussed by trustee Baskin. I do that because up next is public comment related only to agenda items for consideration, 4-minute limit per speaker. So those are included in that for discussion purposes right now. If anybody wants to make a public comment related to any of the motions A through M, as in Mary, please raise your hand and do so now. Seeing no hands in here, except for Mark Lex.
Mark Black, 10 Thompson Street. I do have a question. We talked about procedure, about the gay flag, gay pride thing. What happened, you know, there's every month is a celebration of something, Black Pride, European History Pride, Satan's Day. Are we going to start, is anyone who wants a flag up, are we going to start doing that, or could we have like a schedule that every month so that no group feels isolated? There's hot dog day, there's everyone. So to separate out gay pride from, you open a can of worms when a group feels represented, underappreciated by the community. So how do you handle that when Ku Klux Klan month comes along?
So should we respond now or later?
Today's Turtle Day.
I mean, my initial response at least is to take it on a case by case basis. And to see if something merits a flag on Village Hall. I suppose we could develop some policy. It probably isn't a bad idea to have a policy that explains the values that we are promoting through this policy, and by what flags would be contained, what kinds of flags would be contained within a policy like that. So that's not a bad idea to have a policy.
Yeah, well, we're currently displaying the framing flag.
Not really, sort of, kind of, but yeah.
Yeah, but we are displaying it.
It's two pieces of fabric. It's not a flag,
Well,
but anyway, it's okay.
it represents.
It's two pieces of fabric. It's not a flag.
Okay,
And I'm not arguing with you. We should have a flag out for Ukraine, but it's different.
All good there. I see Ellie with her hand up.
Yeah, Ellie Dillon, 116 Malta Avenue. I think we're getting confused with ideology and people. Ideologies are the Nazis, the Confederate, ideology. The gay community are people, and they have been discriminated against. They have been persecuted. They have been murdered, and they are U.S. citizens. It's a whole different ballgame. So I really am supporting flying the flag because it's Pride Month, and it gives these people a vested interest in our community.
I could say the same about African Americans in our country and our community, and I
Right,
don't
and
remember our proclamations, et cetera, as a village for Black History Month in February. So it becomes an interesting question, and we'll definitely be investigating it probably more when we get promotion practice on this in a little bit. Anybody else in terms of comments in the room? Going? Christine, I gotta advise you that the board has asked me to keep you to 4 minutes because I've let you go over, and they actually were the ones that told me, keep you at 4 minutes, okay? So don't look at me if I gavel again.
Christine Fitzpatrick, 31 Chapman Street. I have two comments. I want to comment on the PUDD, which I have reviewed thoroughly, the new one, and I congratulate you on the changes that you have made. I think they're very responsive to a lot of the comments that we have had from developers and from the public at large, and it certainly should be referred to the planning board and go from there. The other thing is, the other comment I have is on the removal of the mayor announcements. I think that is, I have a problem with that. I think that it is a long-standing tradition The fact that other people, other entities don't do that, that doesn't mean
Christine,
anything.
out of respect, that's not a motion.
Whatever, what you're going to do, your proposal to do.
Christine, you're
it's
out of
not-
order right now. Sorry.
Interesting that you're concerned about your right to free speech, but not other people.
Christine, out of respect, and I believe the trustees will back me up on this week, or last week, I think it was, in back and forth. I explained that I was trying to give you full respect as a former mayor, give you overtime, et cetera, give you latitude. I was actually told by the trustees not to do it for one person. I would have to do it for everybody. Out of respect here, I've got to kind of follow suit here when they ask for something like that specifically. So I'm sorry. I think, I get it, I get it.
Christine, you can obviously comment at the end
Yeah.
on things that are on the agenda.
Correct.
We just has to stay through the rest of it. I think we can plow through most of these quite quickly.
Let me just make sure that we are closing public comment at this point on motions. Anybody on Zoom? I see no hands currently. We're going and gone. So let's go to motions. Can I get a motion that the attached budget transfers be approved? Trustee Baskin, make sure good loud that, please, okay?
I'll second.
Trustee Fandesa, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that Unifier Company number 2 be authorized to expend the amount of $1,625 for SCBA tanks?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Fandesa on the motion, trustee Cormos on the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the BSBPA be granted permission to conduct the 20th annual The Way We Work Hard show on October 9th, 2022 from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. set up to begin at 6 a.m. See attached for details. A permit will be issued upon proof of insurance receipt.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fandesa,
Second.
trustee Raymond, any discussions?
Were there details attached?
Was the permit on that one or no?
Like in the. Yes, there's a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in that big.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion that the town of Milton be granted permission to utilize the firehouses for their primary election on June 28, 2022, and the general election on November 8, 2022, from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Cormos,
I'll second.
trustee Fandesa, discussion.
I'm just curious as to why they want to use it. What did,
They always
They-
do.
oh, they always do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is 11/8 the general
Because
election?
remember, this part of Milton, it's village, so
Right,
we have
right.
You
districts.
know, we always vote in our local fire.
And November 8th, is that the general election?
That's what it says.
So.
Second Tuesday after the first Wednesday, or first Tuesday after the first Wednesday of November. That's why it's not the first.
So it all happened together.
Ours doesn't happen this year, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
This year, the village does
No,
not have its general
we're,
election in November,
the,
maybe next year.
Oh, we're
Right.
not transition.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Got to get a motion approving the special event request submitted by Natalia Martinez of Play Hollow LLC for a summer kickoff event at Wiswall Park on June 24, 2022, with the rain date of June 26, 2022, from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. An insurance certificate has been provided by the applicant.
I'll make the motion.
By trustee Fandesa,
I'll second.
by trustee Cormos. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion approving the special event request submitted by Ed Hirsch on behalf of the Lions Club for a Music in the Park event at the Music Park in the Old Iron Spring Park on July 31st, 2022, from 2 p.m. until 8 p.m. An insurance certificate has been provided by the applicant. How many times can I write park in the same sentence? Can I get that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Trustee Raymond,
One second.
by trustee Baskin. Any discussion?
There's a question, Jen, or somebody keeps a calendar of all events and this does not conflict with anything else. Great.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Take it over?
if you want me to.
Yep.
So the next motion is going to be with respect to the local law that we had the public hearing on earlier. In order to move forward with that, this board has to first go through the remainder of the seeker process. So you have before you parts 2 and parts 3 that was emailed to you. And I apologize, it was emailed late last night. It was a very long weekend. So it got to you late last night. But the part 2 has 11 questions on it, which I am happy to go through. But I have provided that there will be no too small impact on action. What the action is the adoption of the law. For the public, for some reason, the State Environmental Quality Review Act has to be followed whenever you pass a local law because it is an action undertaken by a board. So while it doesn't really account for much, we have to go through the process to make sure it's a viable law.
I'll just read the 11. Is it only 11?
It's 11.
Yeah, so they all start with the proposed action. I'll just take it from there. Create material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations, result in a change of the use and intensity of use of land, impair the character or quality of the existing community, have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area, result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway, cause an increase in the use of energy, and if fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities, impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utilities, impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources, result in an adverse change in natural resources, e.g. wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna, result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems, create a hazard to environmental resources or human health. All have checked off, no or small impact may occur. So in the part 3 determination of significance, the following was stated. The Board of Trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa has taken a hard look at the environmental impacts which may occur as a result of the adoption of Local Law 1 of 2022 and has determined that the adoption will result in no significant environmental impact. The action will further have no adverse impacts on the public health or facilities. Further, the adoption of the law is reasonable exercise of governmental authority. The purpose of the law is to permit the village commercial businesses the ability to utilize the village public right of walk in front of their businesses, should be way,
I'll fix that.
public right of way in front of their businesses to hold retail sales or outdoor dining for a period of 6 months per year. And then check this box if you have determined based on the information analysis above and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. That's the box that was checked. Does anybody have any dispute with that? Can I get a motion to accept the seeker or the
You don't need to do that. It's already in your resolution.
it's in the resolution? Fine. Let's go to the resolution then. I will read it. All right.
If you want to.
Yeah, great. You're welcome, Terry. Resolution 22. Great job. 22 dash,
Whatever your.
yeah, I think it's just 2 actually. Resolution adopting local law 1 of 2022, adding chapter 175 entitled Sidewalk Cafes, Outdoor Dining, and Sidewalk Sales to the Code of the Village of Ballston Spa. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa, the board is considering the adoption of local law number 1 of 2022, which if adopted as proposed adds chapter 175 entitled Sidewalk Cafes, Outdoor Dining, and Sidewalk Sales. And whereas the board finds that the adoption of local law number 1 of 2022 is in the best interest of the village and it is necessary to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of village residents and property owners and enables village businesses to engage in land use, allowing outdoor retail and dining. And whereas the board finds that the adoption of local law number 1 of 2022 is a necessary and proper exercise of authority by the board, and whereas the authority for the enactment of this local law is found in section 10(1)(1) of the municipal home rule law, and whereas pursuant to section 20 of the municipal home rule law, public hearing on the proposed adoption of local law number 1 of 2022 was properly noticed in the newspaper and posted and was duly conducted on May 23rd, 2022 at the Ballston Spa Public Library. And whereas the board has considered public comments provided before and those made at the public hearing, and whereas the board serving as lead agency for this unlisted action under SECRA, SEQRA, reviewed a short environmental assessment form and determined that the action does not present any adverse environmental impacts, and whereas after thorough review and deliberation, the board proposes to adopt local law number 1 of 2022, and whereas the attorney for the village has prepared the necessary documents for filing this local law with the Secretary of State, including the text of the law itself. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby adopts local law number 1 of 2022, which adds a chapter as stated above, and be it further resolved that the board adopts and authorizes the filing of a negative declaration under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the village clerk and the attorney for the village to make such minor modifications to the local law documents as they deem necessary, and thereafter are directed to execute and file the said documents as required by law, to take all the necessary action for the promulgation thereof. May I get that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Condensa,
I'll second.
trustee Basket, any discussion? Please have at it.
You should do auctioning.
We need a voice vote on this. Terry, take it away.
Trustee Fandesa,
Yes.
trustee Raymond,
Yes.
trustee Baskin,
Yes.
trustee Cormos,
Yes.
Mayor Rossi.
Yes.
We'll file that tomorrow. I'll need I need to put a stamp on it. I'll have to-
May I get a motion accepting the resignation of Lori Acey from the Public Safety Committee?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Raymond,
Second.
second by trustee Cormos. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, but she's resigning.
We're gonna miss her.
Good job.
We all are, but she's obviously staying well involved in the village, so that's a plus
Yeah,
for us.
She's a real asset on the library.
Indeed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's see. Let me just skip the PDD referral real quick, get to the union ones. I think it's fitting here. I just want to get the right amount of money here for that. Here we go. Can I get a motion for Union Fire Company number 2 to be allowed to purchase two fans totaling $9,198.
I'll make that one.
Trustee Raymond,
I'll second.
second by trustee Fandesa. Obviously, these are a little bit more than your average fans, battery operated. Because I need a fan in my office, but I'm not spending that.
I understand it's to like evacuate the air. and,
Yes.
you know,
Carbon monoxide, et cetera. Yep. Again, 9,198 for the record, in case I didn't say it out loud or loud enough. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We'll read out Carla's resolution and I can read it when we're ready.
Let me just get to the next
Yeah,
union one real
sorry.
quick, and then we'll go from there. Can I get a motion that the Union Fire Company number 2 be allowed to participate in 2 out-of-district parades with their truck engine rescue 14-4? Number 1, Burnt Hills Annual Parade on Thursday, June 9th in Burnt Hills, and number 2, Saratoga Springs Flag Day Parade on Saturday, June 11th in Saratoga Springs.
I'll make the motion. Oh, sorry.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Corvus, trustee Fandesa, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This is moving way too easily.
Yeah.
So,
Don't jinx it.
You know what? I think the next one's gonna go pretty easy, I can tell you. Believe it or not. PDD referral, you wanna go there?
Sure. You want me to read it?
That's all we're gonna do with this referral and adding the 5 business days to the end of the clerk statement there. I think is, yeah, I have it somewhere here, so if you, I'll trust you to add it to where you are.
So Carla came up with a long resolution. I'll read it.
Yeah, wait a minute, really?
Not a long resolution at all. Resolution referring draft PDD legislation to planning board. So we need to make a motion and second and then I read it? Or
No,
do I read it first? Okay.
just read it.
Okay. Whereas the Village Board of Trustees has prepared draft plan development district legislation, which if adopted would amend the village's zoning code, and whereas pursuant to Village Code 205-74A, the village board under 7-708 of the village law of the state of New York may, on its own motion, on recommendation of the planning board or on petition, after public notice and hearing, amend, supplement, change, modify, or repeal in whole or part the zoning code of the village of Ballston Spa or the boundary of any zoning district. And whereas any such proposed change in text or zoning district boundary shall first be referred to the planning board. And whereas the village board of trustees has prepared draft plan development district legislation, which if adopted would amend the village's zoning code and therefore be subject to section 205-74 as set forth above. Now therefore be it resolved by the village board of the village of Ballston Spa pursuant to Village of Ballston Spa Code section 205-74B. The draft plan development district legislation attached herewith is hereby referred to the planning board, which shall submit a written advisory opinion to the village board of trustees within 30 days of receipt of the draft plan development district legislation from the village clerk. The village clerk shall have 5 days to deliver the PDD to the planning board.
Can I offer the village clerk shall transmit the above within 5 business days after approval of this resolution? I didn't realize it was a little bit more convoluted than.
I mean, why do we need 5 business days? It's already a PDF.
Well, first off, she's gonna have to get out the sidewalk law tomorrow and get it to the state, so we've got a couple things going on here. Also, it's not a PDF, it's only a doc that so we gotta get that generated and make sure it's done right, and also get transmitted instructions.
People okay with that?
We can create a PDF.
Or
Just
ask
create
Carla
it.
to her
Yeah,
final
I can
document.
work with Terry and get it all together.
And the last sentence then is the village clerk shall transmit the above within 5 business days after approval of this resolution. Just to be clear for recording purposes. Now, can I get a motion of for this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Cormos, trustee Cormos,
Second,
trustee Raymond. Discussion?
all I would have to say is that, after referral and review by the planning board, if their decision is not to recommend this PDD as it's written now, to please provide specific comments on specific sections and the specific language, and also provide why that language they're not comfortable with, and perhaps provide an alternative to that language that they would be comfortable with. I don't think editorial or opinion on an overall as the PDD as a whole is necessarily meaningful or useful. So their comments in the past have been incredibly useful and they've been incorporated. So if there's something that they see that they want, have a discussion about, and they can't recommend it, that's what we want them to do.
We have to be careful here, and Carlos actually looking for what I was already thinking of too, in terms of what the direction is that we give the planning board. We can make recommendations, but we can't demand. I don't believe that the planning board gets to make it how they choose to. I have no problem requesting a written format because I think that's the best way to accomplish it. But do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I just want the amendment is not the section 205-74 is not written great. And I put this in a memo to you folks a few months ago. The planning board's directive under your code is that it's referred to them and they have to submit a written advisory report. And that's all it says. And then it says the planning board shall favorably recommend adoption only if, and then there are 3 enumerated reasons to favorably recommend it. So it's an odd duck kind of resolution or amendment because it doesn't specifically say what happens if they do or they don't. If they don't recommend it, doesn't say what this board's supposed to do. If they do recommend it, it doesn't say what this board's supposed to do. It's just a recommendation. So you can ask them whatever you want, but they're only required to identify 1, 2, and 3 if they favorably recommend it. There's nothing in here that talks about if they have changes to it.
Does New York State Village Law have some of its own requirements for zoning laws that, you know, from home rule we replace with some of our laws? I've never actually looked to see there's separate state village code on this.
Not that I'm aware of, no. You mean on how to do the amendments with the referral
Or
process?
what a lack of a thumbs up would do essentially from the planning board.
No, there's nothing, because this is completely just in local codes.
Probably, can you quickly read those 3 pieces or is that
I can,
just so people know?
sure. So this is if the planning board favorably recommends adoption. They can favorably recommend it only if the change doesn't conflict with the general purposes, goals, and intent of the zoning chapter, that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and that it's in compliance with seeker. And ultimately, it will be in compliance with seeker as you move forward with it.
I actually went back to our comprehensive plan, and there's a number of points in it that does support this PDD, which, you know, I can share with the planning board if they want.
I think the idea here is to allow the planning board to make its own determinations, not through direction of us in that respect, because this is an official
That's true.
recommendation.
Correct. But I did look myself, and
I hear it.
there's enough in there to, you know, that we can, that's why we put the comprehensive plan back in the document, because they were thinking of some of the similar things back then.
Okay, discussion over.
This is.
You did it, yes. I mean, what the hell do you want to read?
It's just, based on what you just said, this is our only opportunity to talk about this PDD, hoping the planning board will hear. You know what I mean? Like, we're not, like you said, we're not allowed to, are we allowed to?
You should not
You
be,
shouldn't go and speak to the planning board
Right.
about it. You shouldn't
Or
go to the
send
planning
them
board meetings.
documents
You
or-
shouldn't send them anything.
Right. So
There's,
this is it.
there,
All right. So let me,
well, no, when you say this is it,
I'm speaking of public.
no, but this is it, is you're giving them, not the minutes from this meeting, you're giving them the law. That's
Right,
what you're
right,
giving
right,
them. So to speak of it now is for the public, but it's not going to the planning board.
No, not specifically.
Okay, just want to let you
And
know,
just-
to shorten the meeting, I'm gonna let you
yeah,
know.
just for transparency, I attended the last planning board meeting, introduced myself and thanked them for the work, thanked them for doing work outside what the normal course was with former comments on the old versions of this, and suggested that it may be coming back to them, and thanks again on that when it happens, because I don't plan on talking to them when this happens. I would hope you don't plan to either at this point.
Right. That's why I wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So for the public, we did flesh out a little bit the intent and purpose of this PDD, and I think it's helpful to understand, to put it in context. Let me just read you the first 2 paragraphs so you get the gist of it. I have more content I could provide, but I know everyone wants to leave. So, but it is the intent and purpose of the village board to establish modern land use regulations through enactment of this article, which will enable land development while the comprehensive plan is being updated and the zoning subsequently revised, if necessary, in a manner that protects and promotes village character and quality of place. This article serves as a temporary bridge and as an alternative to a complete moratorium to span the time between enactment herein and when comprehensive updated zoning is adopted. Because this PDD is a temporary bridge between current zoning and anticipated future zoning, and because it contains input from many different sources, including paid consultants, elected officials, developers, the lay public, the planning board, the zoning board, this PDD is intentionally a hybrid compromise between traditional PDD language and form-based zoning. It is anticipated that this PDD will be replaced and supplanted by the revised zoning that will follow the completion of the comprehensive plan. So this is supposed to be a stopgap bridge measure, an alternative to the moratorium, to a moratorium, just while the comp plan is being done and zoning is being revised. So please keep that in mind. In terms of trying to incorporate the feedback we've gotten, we've increased the size trigger for when a building would fall into the PDD category to 15,000 square feet. We clarified that the 15,000 does not apply to internal renovations. So I thank Anna Stanko for bringing that issue up, because that wasn't clear. You were saying that some big buildings are doing renovations. Are they going to fall? And no, that's not the intent. And it clarifies that it will only apply to them if they add another 15,000. So otherwise, they're not going to be affected by this at all. So thanks for bringing that up. We increased the building height, and people should realize that this PDD actually increases the height and other, well, particularly height beyond what the current zoning does potentially. So, for example, the current zoning, central business district, you can only go to 50 feet, but in the PDD it goes to 56 feet. So in my mind, that was too high, but this is a compromise document, and so that was trying to accommodate the input we got. Commercial district, it's now 30 feet. In the PDD, it's 56 feet, so that's a big increase. There are a number of stories maximized in the central business district was 4. Now it's not specified. In the commercial, the max is 2, but in the PDD, it's not specified, so it could go more. In the residential, it also increased from 36 feet to 42 feet. So most of what's sort of required or defined are those kinds of measurements, and the rest is really design guidelines that really serve to help the developer understand what it means by village character, what we mean by quality of place. So they're not starting from a blank slate. It's supposed to be helpful, and but there's not a lot of shalls or musts. A lot of it encourage, there's some shalls, but a lot of it, we encourage this, or consider that. There are other things that are defined in the current zoning that are left undefined in this PDD. So allowed uses, minimum lot size, minimum lot width, maximum building coverage, minimum landscape coverage, minimum yard dimensions. So those are all defined in the zoning, but the PDD, the developer can propose their own dimensions and uses. So again, it's designed to enable flexibility within these guide rails. So the other thing that's important to just mention, and I'll stop soon, the PDD has been streamlined. So whereas before we had a number set, we probably shortened it by 3 months. And one of the things, again, a compromise, what Trustee Van Daan suggested we take out the early public comment period. And so we did that. It's not, we prefer to have it in, but it does streamline the process, and we can still get public comment. It's just not incumbent upon the developer to get that for us. We're going to have to get it ourselves. But it does shorten the process. So, all right, I do have some letters of support, but I'll read them maybe depending on how long we go. People have asked me to read them. I realize I probably should have done it under public comment, but let's see where the conversation goes. I can always read them at the end.
I think the conversation was planned to be a vote on referring this to the planning board, since they haven't had the opportunity to have anything to say on it at this point, and then we can throw all these into public comment at the time, because there will be a public hearing on this resolution at a certain point in time, so you can save those up and not spend until 10 o'clock here. Liz?
Just one thing, that one part that I agreed to, which I really still feel very strongly about, is getting early public input. When I think back to the political campaigns and changes to our format here, where we're encouraging lots of public comment, and then we take it out of something as important as a new development in the village, to get that early input into a prospective project. So that's one I would prefer to see in. Yes, it adds maybe a month of time, but to go through the whole process with just the board and the planning board and all of that, and not have an opportunity particularly to hear from the people living within 500 feet of this project. I don't agree with, but I did compromise on that.
If you don't understand the enormity of the opportunities of the PDD process, no matter if it's a conventional one or this type of one, to give that public comment level, then I think you're missing the reality of what these processes allow for. Just because it's just like here, we don't have a public hearing open, but we're going to reserve the public comments and read through them. It's not like we aren't reading them in an active format right now to see what people are thinking. That happens all the time in these things, and that's what these boards are assigned to do.
I
Us
like
and planning.
the formal nature of it, where the developer would make sure that all the people were informed and that they were at a session where they could get the proposed project presented to them.
Once it goes to planning, once it goes to planning, no matter what, it's going to have that scenario. So and that's our process.
My point was to have it at the concept stage, at the same stage that the board is reviewing it. So that's all I want to say.
I agree with what Liz is saying, and I was sorry to see it go, but I'm willing to work as hard as possible to get feedback in maybe more informal way, because it is very important.
Further discussion? All in favor? We have to go actually on a voice vote here.
Trustee Parmos,
Yes.
trustee Baskin.
Yes.
Trustee Raymond,
Yes.
trustee Landesa,
Yes.
Mayor Roslin.
Yes. That said, the motion carries 5-0. On an unofficial basis, just for transparency, I'm going to be requesting the zoning board chair requests her board to do the same. They don't have to do it. This is an unofficial basis, obviously, but I wouldn't mind having the zoning board take a look at the new modified version. And also the Historic District Commission. I discussed with John Cromie the following question: if he is concerned, or his committee is concerned, that it is open up to all the village without restriction to the historic district, and see their feedback on that as well. So we'll send those packages out to make sure everybody has what they need if they want to participate in that. However, the planning board one is an official referral, and that's why we have to do it in that manner.
Just, I don't know, to allow people to see what the changes were from the version of last November. I did send one with, compared Word does that. So if, people want to see what changes we made.
I think we have to take it on its own merit at this point, Liz.
No, just, but that information is there. It was passed out with the meeting minutes, so with the meeting attachments, just to let people know if they'd like to see the changes that were made, it is available.
Is the latest version going to be put on the website?
We've been doing that, probably just update it, Jen, as well, and where the link is currently, just replace it at this point with the most updated one. Once we get a PDF of it, it's probably the easiest way, because I hate having Word files floating around, because we can change those too easily. Ben, you had the last two requests, so I'll let you go, pride flag was first, I think.
Okay. Here's a letter from Cindy Swabda making this request. I am a 42-year resident of the town of Milton and a volunteer for Saratoga Pride. I am writing as a long-term resident and on behalf of Saratoga Pride to invite the village of Ballston Spa to participate in Pride Month during June 2022. This year, we are pleased to invite all Saratoga County cities, towns, and villages to raise a pride flag in front of local landmarks throughout the month. In 2021, the village of Ballston Spa flew the pride flag in front of the town hall. I am asking the village to do the same during June of 2022 and every June thereafter. It is my understanding that the village received a donation of a flag last year. Saratoga Pride promotes the safety and well-being of LGBTQ+ residents and visitors. Is it plus or positive?
Plus.
Okay, sorry. Residents and visitors throughout Saratoga County and beyond. We foster connection and visibility among Saratoga area LGBTQ+ residents and support inclusive businesses and services that welcome LGBTQ+ community members and visitors. Over the years, Saratoga Pride has offered educational and social programs and events that serve members and allies of our community, including youth, family members, healthcare professionals, and educators. Participants come from all over Saratoga County and beyond. Because of Saratoga Pride's visibility, the new crosswalk in Saratoga Springs, our programs and events, and our website, we receive numerous inquiries from the public about community needs, challenges, resources, role models, programs, and referrals. It is especially moving when we hear from the parents and allies of LGBTQ+ youth. We're grateful that we are here and can help them find needed support. We know that welcoming communities save lives. We also know that LGBTQ+ community members live in every town and village in Saratoga County. Please join us, other communities and organizations, in raising pride flags for the month of June, the LGBTQ+ community's most powerful time of year. Sincerely, Cindy Swabda. So I'd like to make a motion to fly the pride flag in front of Village Hall for the month of June. Anything else you need to add?
That's the motion.
Yeah. Second,
I'll second.
any discussion?
Well, that's my part now.
Oh, okay. Say something.
Well, you did the motion. Everybody usually knows what comes next. I don't know whether they hesitated on that one.
I thought you were gonna do that.
Any discussion? I want to make one statement to this board. While I hate, Chrissy, would you say how the sausage is made all the time?
Like the language, so if it's don't watch either one being.
Yeah. Clearly, my sexuality was disclosed in public comment a couple meetings ago. Not a big fan of that happening. It shouldn't be happening to anybody, to be honest with you. What I didn't like in the discussion back and forth this week was the kind of talking at me scenario, that as if it was being dictated how I should be celebrating Pride or how I should lead a celebration of Pride after basically being out for the last 22, 23 years of my life, and fighting my own fights and causes and doing it in New York City and Boston, etc. And just, it was demeaning. It was disappointing. I really didn't appreciate it. I would expect you not to do that to your friends. Tell them how to celebrate Mother's Day or their birthday or something like that. I wouldn't tell somebody how to celebrate when you know their sexuality in this situation, how to celebrate it. This could have been a fruitful, positive conversation. It turned into kind of a off the rails few moments for me where I was really offended and hurt. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So when you do celebrate Pride Month, no matter what we decide to do here, I would ask you to maybe take a step back and think about how that played out and do better. And kind of ask yourself, are you doing this? Ben, I hate to use this because you've used it on me multiple times. It's a political power play scenario, or if you really mean it at the end of the day, because the way this played out just felt so political and not really thinking about what you were saying before you said it. That's my 2 cents on it.
I don't see.
So I'm sorry you were hurt and offended, and that you took things very personally. That was not my intent. If you read my emails, I'm surprised, other than the politics of this, that is your response, because the email simply asked, one, what do we think about having a proclamation supporting Pride Month, open-ended, and then also with Liz bringing to our attention Cindy Swabda's request. That was it. And I did not get a response back. I did see an email back from you where you said, you shouldn't be telling a gay man how to celebrate Pride Month. Now, the issue is this Pride Month isn't like really just about you, and our proposal and motions of the board aren't really just about you either. I'm a member of this community as well. I have family members, I have friends who are in this community. I mean, it's a very significant event, and a month for me as well. And I believe that the board should support this this cause. And so it wasn't, these comments or this request wasn't directed at you personally. You happen to be one member of the board. It was a request of the board as a whole to recognize Pride Month. And it was in support of the community. So I don't know where the offense happened other than I happen to be interested in this as well, even though I'm not gay. I have an affinity for this event. And so I apologize if I created an offense, but I really don't see where how my emails generated that, because really it was all about, can we have a resolution which we can read and you can see what it is, and can we fly the flag, and that's it.
I just want to say one thing, Ben. I guess maybe you don't realize it, and maybe you haven't gotten to know me in this respect. On most weekends since I've been elected and installed in office, I'm down in New York City, at least on the Saturday night, repping the New York Gay Flag Football League for LGBTQ plus players and allies. There's straight players as well on it. And refereed the championship game yesterday down there, and actually told them that it was my 20th championship weekend, because we have 2 seasons a year, lost one because of COVID. But just the pride I had and the importance of the community of what they do to represent our community. So nobody has to tell me how to represent the gay community, lesbian community, etc. in this situation. The way to have a conversation, if you really want to understand better, is instead of telling me what to do, ask me first, what do you think should be done?
I asked, I didn't say, Frank, do this. I said, what do people, we'll get the email. I said, what do people think of having a proclamation? That's what it was a question. And it wasn't just for you, it was for the whole board.
Your colleague to your left wasn't necessarily as graceful as you were, or at least in the direction of it.
Frank,
So
I think you've read way too much into what Ben and I wrote. We supported this, I supported it last year. You weren't here.
okay, and that's good, Liz, but you know what? Now I am, and you know my sexuality.
Why should it change the way that I request?
It's called an open mind, and that's what this whole thing is about, isn't it? At the end of the day, that's the thing. That's the issue.
So here we go. So this feels very politicized to me. I wish we could just get together and focus on the topic and not what I think is a fabricated issue of being offended. This happened, the exact same thing happened when we're working on the crosswalk, and Carolyn Johnson came in here and attacked me personally for something I did not do. Check it out, I did not do it. And because the content, if I happen to propose something that is actually a good thing, the response is, how can we undermine that? How can we damage Ben's image and reputation? And I'm starting to see a pattern here. I did nothing, all right? I'm sorry if you were sincerely offended.
I was sincerely offended.
But you know what? You read the email. I don't know if you want to sit while I look for the email, but it is innocuous. It was completely, what do people think of this proclamation in support of Pride Month? What does the board think? I didn't say, Frank, what do you think? Frank, I want you to do this. I didn't say that. It wasn't there. It was not in that email. So I don't know how you read that into it. I do think you are politicizing this whole interaction. That's what I think. I think you look at what is the politically advantageous way you're going to make political points out of this situation, and you go for it.
I'm not exactly sure what political points I'd be getting for.
By damaging me, by saying, oh, Ben, you did something offensive, not just to me, but to the whole community. You know, I'm offended by
Ben,
that.
as I said.
I think we need to move on.
That would be good.
Okay, so no, actually now that for the discussion of why I'm really wondering about this, where are you putting this flag?
Last year, we put it in front of the village hall.
No, it went on the window.
No, we're saying.
Started in a window.
No, it was not, it was in the second floor window where you couldn't see it. And then
Then
it went outside, so
Did it-
outside in front of Village Hall would be fine unless you have an alternate location.
Well, we only have one flag holder currently, do we not, out there? And then the chief's office says it's flag, but that's the chief's office's flag. So are you taking out the American flag?
All right, I got the email. Hello, all right, so this is from me to the entire board, including Carla. Yeah. Hello again, I don't see Pride Month on the agenda. Cindy Swaza sent a request in 513 to fly the Pride flag at Village Hall. Also, we could do a proclamation similar to below. If people are interested, I could edit below for the village. Frank, are you planning to bring this up somewhere on the agenda where it is not currently listed? Thanks for your thoughts. So you're in charge of the agenda. It's appropriate for me to ask, because I had asked actually prior to that about this issue, and I didn't get a response that it was going on the agenda. So so I'm sorry that that email offended you, but I don't think it's an offensive email.
What's the date of the email?
Although that one I'm reading is 5/22.
Correct.
And
There was one,
there was one
this
before
was,
that.
yeah, I'm talking about the stuff from last week, Ben, that I actually responded to.
And you
And that was
responded
nothing.
to me that you had something in the works.
I did. And
But-
Jen,
But you never
and
said what it
Jen
was.
and Jen can attest to it.
But you
You
didn't
didn't tell us what it was. You said you had something in the works, or you put, and then you never, that's why I followed up. I said, you have something on the agenda plan.
Because I needed to talk to Jen and to Jeff to see if it was possible to even do it, Ben.
And you never came back to us, so we didn't know what you're doing.
Here I am. So the idea I had was to pay for a banner out of my own pocket with the pride flag and post on it that had a message about the Village of Ballston Spa supporting the LGBTQ community and having taking pride in diversity. I was working on the text, and once I realized we could get it off the ground ultimately, I haven't finished it because these Mondays seem to get somewhat.
Well, is that something you're proposing, and where is that banner gonna be located?
It would be, what do we say, the second floor windows hanging outside, hanging outside.
Hanging outside.
So here's the earlier email, 5/18. Hello, I'd like to get on the agenda an acknowledgement / proclamation that June is Pride Month. City of Hazel Park has a nice short proclamation I think could work here at link below. Jenner Terry, Cindy Swaba says she sent an email about Pride Month via the website for it, but I don't think we've seen it. Thanks for reporting.
And then.
That's not offensive.
And Liz,
Sorry.
somehow this see below ended up in my spam folder. I'd like to see the Village of Ballston participate in Pride Month, fly the flag in visible location again. Hey,
That's
It's
What is
a-
wrong with that?
at some point, when you know the people you're working with,
No.
take a step back. Take a step back.
It's,
This is unnecessary, Frank. It's unnecessary, this whole conversation.
Take a step back, sometimes, seriously. If you want to work together and have productive conversations with people, and you know certain things about them, at least embrace it.
These
In the process of it.
unwarranted attacks aren't helpful.
Anyway, so what do you want to do?
Where are we? We discussed something and now, oh, proclamation. All right, here's the proclamation.
Wait. If I recall, there was a motion and a second on the flag, and then this was a discussion on the
Oh,
flag.
yeah.
So right now you need your vote.
okay.
We're gonna call votes.
Well, I don't think we've really determined where this is going in terms of, are we taking the American flag out or not? Or were we putting it
Did we
something else?
take the American flag out last year?
Christine has a picture.
Christina has a photo.
Yes, it's in front, because, if I may,
Right.
okay, it started out upstairs on the second floor, and there was a problem with visibility. So we moved it, yes, we don't have to, we put it where the American flag is. For the month of June, bear in mind that on every lamppost along Front Street, and I think Milton Avenue, there are American flags. So the fact that it was, and this was, in the Woolbright administration, so this is a decision that Larry made, that it would go on for this particular time, it could go on the flagpole, and the American flag that stays there normally for that time would be,
So we did
Solely.
remove an American flag.
we did, yes,
Yes, okay.
that's is,
Thank
yes.
Is there an ability to have a flag, because it's also a flag? and keep it in
You
June.
can't
You can't
officially
have
put
it.
the flag in the same pole as the American flag.
Oh,
That's the flag law.
Oh, New York
Can we
State
put another
County.
flagpole?
I've seen that done so many times.
You're not, there's a lot of flag law that
Thank you
people
for
don't know.
clarifying.
And then flags have to be a certain height and the other flags have to be on,
Yes.
on different. See, I'm earning my money.
Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts would not do that.
Yeah, the Boy Scouts.
It is not a bad idea to get another flagpole. There you go. And put it on the other side of the building.
I
So
know
you can
damn
do both.
flagpole, I'll pay for it, put it on the goddamn building, let's
Let's,
move on.
let's do it.
Yeah. Language.
Enough, let's go. I'll buy it.
I agree, I would support that.
Okay. well,
So how are we gonna handle it motion wise now?
Motion to hang the flag in front of Village Hall.
It
We're
would,
not
I
specifying
haven't-
where in front.
I have a motion already here. It's just a question of, yeah.
Sit down.
Yeah, sit down.
I don't mean to take over your meeting.
No, please.
Mr. Mayor, but we're kind of going a little road
Yeah.
here. There is a motion before the board. If whoever made the motion, that was Ben. If you want to amend it, you have to amend the motion, and then whoever seconded it, to second the amendment.
So I guess what I'd suggest is we pass this thing and then we make a motion to add a second set, flagpole to Village Hall. And put the flag in there.
Could we incorporate that into?
I think that's probably the wise
Is that
move
better? All right,
to sort of
All right,
get away
so
from
the
the
motion-
insinuation.
I'll make the motion, all right.
Amend the motion.
Then the motion that we hang the pride flag for the month of June in front of Village Hall and that we install a second flagpole so that.
To house it.
What?
To house it.
To house it.
How's
Yes.
any
Well,
additional flag that comes around?
okay. To house the pride flag and any other flag, second flag we might want to have.
Who seconded that? Who seconded originally?
John.
Okay, he accepts the amendment. That's what he does. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, proclamation. So make a motion to support the following proclamation. Whereas the Village of Ballston Spa supports the rights of all persons to coexist with equality and freedom from discrimination. And whereas we celebrate and value the rich diversity of those who comprise our community, exemplified through the many unique talents, backgrounds, points of view, and cultural heritages of residents. And whereas while American society is slowly embracing new definitions of sexuality and gender, we must also acknowledge that increased education and awareness remain vital to ending discrimination and prejudice. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa hereby declare June 2022 as Pride Month and encourage residents to reflect upon the continuing struggle for equality by members of the LGBTQ+ community. Proclaim this 23rd day of May 2022. So I make a motion to pass or support this resolution.
Proclamation.
Proclamation. Thank you. I have a second.
Discussion. Are you gonna do one for February?
Like history?
I had no objection to that.
Should we,
Tonight.
for another time, maybe?
Yeah.
I'm just asking because I don't want to be set up for an insinuation that we're picking and choosing minority groups or those that have been oppressed in this village. And we got to be a little bit careful with that. And it does lead to problems down the line if you are spotted as doing so. So you might want to really consider how you pick and choose sometimes and the political points supposedly I'm going after. Okay.
That's a fair point.
I love that Ballston Spa is an all-inclusive community.
That's my role. Thanks, Christine. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's everybody's favorite part of the meeting, open public comment. 4 minutes. Christine, you want to finish what you were doing earlier? Out of fairness to you. And notice, Christine, I went straight to you because I agree with you, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, this was about, Sean, this
Me
was
moving mayor
about
announcements.
your mayor announcements, okay. What I think is, I do think it's a tradition, I do not care, it doesn't matter to me that other places don't do it, if we did it and it works for us, I think that it's a good idea. The other thing is, I think, with respect, Frank, you're talking about your free speech rights. One of the things that happens, and it's a bummer, but, and I'm seeing a pattern here where, and I'm not gonna make any comment on political, but what my observation is, you're taking things personally. And people commenting on mayor announcements, you're taking it personally, and the whole point of the mayor announcements is that that's a public good. And it's a public service, so it doesn't, and I don't mean any disrespect to you, but it has nothing to do with you personally. It's public information. The other thing that I would make a point about is that you're talking about the way you're talking about delivering your mayor announcements. You're doing it at 6:30 rather than 7, and you're talking about putting it on Facebook Live. Well, that cuts out an entire group of people who aren't on Facebook Live. I mean, I am not now, nor have I ever been on Facebook, and I'm going to my grave not being on Facebook. So I would not be able, the only way I could hear those things, just, and maybe I'm making this personal, would be if I came and showed up, okay? So I think and there are numerous people in this community who are not on Facebook and don't use Facebook Live. So I think if you're going to, so there's a couple of problems that I think it's personal, you're taking it personally, and it's not, it's a public good. And the second is how the communication is delivered. And you give up an opportunity to communicate to the widest bunch of your constituency.
Well, like I said, Christine, the technology is not actually definitive yet. I said Facebook Live was one possibility. So I'm open to other ideas too with respect to that. It might be YouTube or something like that. That's actually not a bad idea. So there's that possibility as well. So like I said, we have 3 weeks to figure that logistic out. With respect to my mayor announcements, I pretty much am as robust in mayor announcements as I can ever remember for a mayor in this village. I think I have 12 tonight, ultimately. I don't remember folks going as deep as we are, me revealing exactly what I'm doing at any given time, pretty much. And the thing that really, don't take this as me taking it personally, but I've been getting a letter from Martha Iacolucci, Yelly Dillon, that I'm too exposing of myself on Facebook or what I'm up to, etc. Or that, you're shaking your head, Ellie. I mean, that's what you basically wrote, that it was me
This
clouding
was a letter
things.
to you, not the
You can
public.
speak in a moment. And
I don't want to speak.
a letter to me is to the public, Ellie, because it's foilable, unfortunately. So it is to the public when it's to me.
Okay.
And so you gotta realize that.
Yep.
So when I'm, out there showing what I'm up to, or whatever that's up to, or whatever, we are trying to do what we're asked to, which is being transparent about the things we do in this community and how we're trying to help out, turn the spotlight on people, etc. And so I don't know, am I supposed to be less transparent, more effusive with, what I'm up to and everything else? It seems like I get such cross currents. So at the end of the day, I'm going to be me and tell you what I think is necessary for this village to be happy with the information flow they deserve and expect to a certain degree. I'm tired of being censored or told what to say, what not to say. I got elected as mayor. I'm going to do my job. It's not about reelection. I really don't care if I'm reelected or not at this point in time, because you know what? Long ways away. And I want to govern and do the best things I can for the folks of this village. That's what I care about. And if it takes going off to a 6:30 start for these mayor announcements, it allows me enough time to breathe and not be, censored in that process, then so be it.
So I'll just add my thoughts on that. We have this rules of procedure that we all agreed to and voted on, and mayor's announcements. I think you've done a great job providing updates, and I definitely appreciate it. I'm sure the community does. The times that it's been a little problematic is when you veer away from mayor announcements and you introduce, for example, a letter from the public that does not, it belongs on the agenda, but not in the mayor's announcement.
And that was in old business last time that happened. It was Jim Bedoin's letter in old business, and out of respect.
You're over talking.
At another time, there was, mayor's announcement, you started talking about a motion, I think related to the PUD that was on the agenda later down and opening up that conversation. And so that's when I feel like, all right, let's stick to the rules of procedure. We have places for all these other things, mayor's announcements, let's stick to mayor's announcement, not use it in a political way in terms of, putting things in when it shouldn't be there. That was my objection, but I appreciate your announcements, and I definitely would miss them if they didn't happen. So I hope that they will continue as they have.
I found the announcements you made tonight were more in line with, frankly, we've experienced in the past, which are, things that are basically factual. They're not your opinion. They're not on motions, etc. It's this happening, the pool. We've had this discussion, etc., etc. I thought that was actually quite well done, and would like to see that type of mayor announcements continue as part of the meeting. I think the first couple you did, you veered off of what, maybe because it was, you're doing it new, was what usually is the content of mayor announcements. But I thought tonight went quite well, and I'd like to see it, continue as part of the meeting. I think it's useful information. People want to know about the swim lessons. They want to know what's happening, with the BOA grant and all of those topics, and we want to know those things too. And I think I get an undercurrent that you want to start the meeting at 6:30, and in some way you're going to figure out to make it start at 6:30. And we decided, I think, at the last meeting that we didn't want to start it at 6:30 because I got out of the meeting. What was that, 4:30, an hour and a half meeting with the engineer, was texted by that, at a little after 6, and then have to be here at 7. I wanted something to eat because it is now 9:40. So that's why I don't want it to start at 6:30, because often we have people that are working. It's a chance to at least grab a bite to eat before we attend one of these very long meetings.
Who was in his office after you left?
Yeah.
And didn't eat, but still wouldn't mind the 6:30 start so you could have a life afterward too. I mean, there's a balance to be achieved there.
There's no life afterwards when we're ending at 9:40.
Well, that's the
We're
point.
old, just go home and have a glass of wine and go to bed.
Anna Stanko.
Just a couple quick things, 32 Penn Street. We probably wouldn't be here at 9:40 if we didn't have a 20-minute discussion on $7,000, really $7,000. You guys talked for 20 minutes about it. Move the money from point A to point B. Every municipality does it. That's what's taking up the time here. About the park, I don't know whether any of you know or not, but I do believe that the family that lives there every summer still is living there again. So if we are looking at new stuff and vandalism, maybe somebody needs to look into who's living down on the creek. The tents are back. There's hammocks down there. They're there every summer.
I bet you that's what it was for the.
They're there every summer. They move down there, then they sit in the pavilion almost all day long, and people don't want to go there because they're not very clean either. The only other thing I would like to say is right before this meeting, I finished watching last week's meeting because I wasn't able to be here. One thing I was a little disappointed in is not one of you, and you just talked, Ben, about how pro LGBTQ you are, when this gentleman, John, got up here and made a complete a-hole of himself. That was completely the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in a village board meeting. And I've been to a lot of them, especially over the last few weeks. And not one of you, none of you reprimanded that gentleman. I'm a little disappointed in all of you. You're talking about, what do you mean? What am I talking about? When he gets up and says something about the mayor right in front of everybody? Why didn't any one of you stand up and say, that's inappropriate, sit down?
We can't censure free speech.
Did you say anything afterwards? Have any of you reached out to him? No. Sean? Ben? Liz? Bernadette?
I talked to him.
Yeah, and you told him that was inappropriate?
I had a private conversation with him.
I saw him on that Wednesday and he decided to act like they were best friends or something, and I was not having that because I. don't
That's
think
not
it
the
was
place for
appropriate.
this. You all should know that, and you all should have stood up, whether it's free speech or not. We're all human beings here, are we not?
You wonder why I take it personally sometimes.
That's exactly it.
What part of was the most offensive to you?
The part that he gets up and has to say at the beginning, as an openly gay man, who the hell gives a crap? Whether he's black, white, purple, gay, trans, I don't care what he is or who he is the mayor and he deserves respect, just like everybody else does. It doesn't matter whether he's gay or not. What the heck does that have to do with Gay Pride Month? To me, it has nothing to do with it. It's June, it's Gay Pride Month, put the flag up. I don't care. But for him to have to point that out was, to me, it was a jab, and it was not his business, and it was just rude. But there's a lot of rudeness going on, so, and nobody seems to get reprimanded for the stuff that they do in this village, when we all know that it's not right.
Thanks. Lisa.
Got two things. Lisa Spidell, 106 Prospect Street. I've got two things that I want to bring up. The mayoral announcements, whatever. I think what you did tonight was fantastic. We got information, everybody got information. I think the idea also of a 6:30 beginning thing to start, hey, this is what is going on. It opens up for the public that will be talking and taking up time to ask those questions, to relay that information in your quick mayoral announcement. And then that's going to cut down on a little, I think it benefits everybody. Liz, I'm sorry, the look.
I'm sorry,
It's rude.
I don't think.
It
it's
is
gonna show
rude. Do
today.
not roll your eyes at a taxpayer.
I'm sorry.
This is my 4 minutes.
I'm sorry. I
Sorry to raise my
apologize.
voice. That's not my intent, but the rolling of the eyes. It's inappropriate. I'm giving my opinion. You don't have to take it. You can just one ear and not the other. That's fine.
Go ahead and vote, Lisa.
The second thing I have to say is validation of people's feelings. Mayor Rossi made a statement that this is how he felt. This is how your words, writings, whatever, affected me. It wasn't a statement of persecution on anybody. These were his feelings, his thoughts, and it wasn't an attack. He was putting out how he felt. The proper response to that would have been, hey, I didn't realize that's how it was taken. That was not my intent. Your feelings are valid. I apologize, move on. It shouldn't have been a whole discussion. You shouldn't have been looking for emails for proof. You shouldn't, it just, hey, that's not what I meant. Sorry about that. I really didn't mean it. And that should have been the end. It shouldn't just go on and on and on. We're taking this, you know what? We're all people. We all have the same colored blood running through us. We all have hearts. We all have minds. We all have voices. Love each other. Don't care what you do in your bedroom or anywhere else for that matter. Your privacy is your privacy. This is not a public place for what you do in private. This is a place for us to discuss village business that affects all of us. And if that means, hey, we support everybody, and that even though you're not LGBTQ2, we're all plus. We are all plus. So it doesn't matter. We all fall into that, and we should all take care of each other.
Thank you, Lisa. Mark.
Mark Fleck, 10 Thompson Street. I have two things to bring up. I appreciate you guys giving us the money for the Family Fun Day, which will go also help the other events. I'm not criticizing you, Sean. But these programs are really important. They're about marketing this village and community engagement, getting to our public. This is how we make our community feel like they're important to us. Yes, water is important, roads are important, but our children are important, and getting them engaged and feel like they're a valued part of our community is very important. And that's our job. The other thing is about pride. I think it was misunderstood. I'm very much in favor of what you guys are doing and what the importance of pride. Living in Georgia for many years, what I was trying to say is that in Alabama, they have the Ten Commandments at the what's it called? At the Capitol. They were sued by a satanic group to put up a conflicting statue of their people. You set a precedent when you don't have procedures about what to put up, what not to put up. You open yourself up to any group who can say, if this is our morality to the Nazis did march. They had a parade in New York City in the 40s, I believe my father told me about, because they had a right to, because Irish, there was the whatever parade, the Irish parade. Unless the village has a procedure, you have to be very careful about what you're doing. It's not, and Ellie, no one knows more than me. Very few people know more than me about the persecution of gay people. And I don't mean to offend you, and I don't mean, excuse me, I'm supposed to be speaking to the board. But my concern again is the repercussion of the long term, if we don't have a procedure in place. Because again, I lived in Georgia, I saw that the marches in Charlottesville is a perfect example. Remember when they had the pitchforks and the torches? They were allowed to because they had the right to.
But ideology and people are too, that's what I.
No, I agree completely. We just need to make a procedure. Yes, but we just need to make it because we've seen this happen in our culture when extremism gets taken too far. So that's all I'm asking.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Anyone else in the room? See two hands up.
You ready for?
Yep.
All right, Corbin Phillips has been had his hand up for like 20 minutes now, so we're gonna go with Phillips first.
Mormon, how you feeling?
I've unmuted. I'm good, fine, thank you, Frank. I'm feeling better. I'm not going to talk about my sexuality or anybody else's.
Go ahead.
These meetings are too long. Steve Bascom, you tried to make that point earlier and to tell the mayor how he should be running the meetings. He was elected mayor. That's his job, to run this meeting, among other things. You were out of place. If you want to talk to him about how he should run the meeting, I would hope you would go and talk to him in private about that before you open your mouth and prolong the length of these meetings. This one has already lasted almost 3 hours. Oh, I live at 101 Hyde Boulevard in Ballston Spa.
I just want to clarify something or at least respond that the board is all, the mayor presides over the meeting, but the board as a whole votes and approves the rules of procedure. So if there's a mayor announcement, or there isn't, or liaison reports, treasurer's reports, all those items are identified and voted on by the board as a whole. So we do have a role to play in how the meetings are run as well.
Foreman, thank you.
And I'm gonna move to Keith Lewis.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston Spa.
You know, every
Oh, no, that was my fault. Hold on, I'm coming. Go ahead.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston spot. You know, every time Pride Month is mentioned, there seems to be this discussion about other groups and making sure that there's room for all of these other groups. June is Pride Month, which is a time to celebrate lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer history. It's the simplest expression to help illustrate the continuing need for us to recognize pride. It never has a person in these other groups, lost their job legally for being part of their group, as is the case in the majority of US states for our LGBTQ community. Or have they been denied an apartment, which is also legal in a number of states, or been leered at, attacked by strangers simply for holding hands with their significant others? There's a level of social and systemic privilege that's not afforded to many members of the LGBTQ community. The motive has always been and should remain to help create a sense of pride for a group which is often stripped of its dignity and punished for loving. LGBTQ youth are 5 times as likely to attempt suicide. And I personally recognize Pride Month in an attempt to stop that sickening statistic. Thank you.
Pride's not just about proclamations and flags. It's actually going out and doing something to live your words at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And
which is done.
I challenge all of you this month coming up, since we won't see each other until probably June 13th or thereabouts, unless we come in passing, to go out and do something more than just feel content that you hung a flag on the side of the village offices or put a proclamation out that the people of this meeting heard, and that's probably going to be the extent of it ultimately. Do more. I'm going out to Chicago for Pride Ball the last weekend of June for their Pride celebration. I'll be back in time for the meeting, so don't think that you're going to get rid of me that easily for that Monday. But I'll be back. But it'll be with that sense of pride that Keith brings up and raises. And Keith, you're 100% correct. This is where we can find agreement as people that disagree with each other sometimes. But again, the whole idea here is, and why I had that discussion earlier, it's more than flags, it's more than proclamations. And maybe if we talked about it, we would have had a better approach than just doing what every other community does in this whole thing. Because if we're supposed to be better and transcend the village of Ballston Spa, we could do a lot better than this. And that's what I think we missed. Gina Rosie.
Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane, couple updates for you. Through the generosity of a few people that were pretty upset over the outcome of our request for the events money. Ben, you gotta put your money where your mouth is. We're over $1,500. So in light of what happened here tonight, I don't know where you're gonna find it, but you told us if we hit 1,500, you'd match it.
Well, I don't run the board, but I supported that.
All in favor?
No, that's the first thing. So with tonight's arrangement for the money, although I wish you would listen to Julia, that is her job, but regardless, we got the money. I can't look a gift horse in the mouth. We're projecting that Family Fun Day will be held on August 21st. It's a Sunday. This is projected from noon to 5 with but noon to 5, except for the 2 hours before from 10 to noon for children with sensory issues, autism, that'll be strictly for them.
Is this in Wiswall or?
It's gonna be on Front Street, it's gonna be block party style. It's gonna go from Route 50 down to Iron Spring, thank you, Mark. Iron Springs, where the entertainment and music will be held all day with a headlining band to end the night.
Is there a sign-up sheet to help?
Not yet.
I would love to help.
We're working on that. Like I said, this is all just in sketch out right now. So that's where we're at with that. So you're gonna have to need to find the other 1,500 for us, if you don't mind. And now I'm gonna turn on you. Because the whole thing about Carol Johnson and Doubleday Woods, Ben, you did say about the coffee and crossing the street. And that's what she came at you about.
And I didn't.
And you did, and I'm gonna prove it to you. I'll prove it to you, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
1 hour, 40 minutes, March 1st. Anyone can look. 1 hour, 40 minutes. I'll help you. You look.
It wasn't
and
at
see.
1 hour 40,
Yeah,
it was
well.
at 3 hours something.
3 hours.
Yeah,
There was no 3 hours.
I will send it to you.
I'll send it to you. 1 hour, 40 minutes. I'll send it
Besides
to
the
you.
fact you have 2 board members that were there and actually heard you say it.
And mistake.
It's not gonna be respectful for us, but we're not doing it, okay?
Sorry, I just wanted to comment to both you, Gina and Mark. Thank you so much for including the time for children to be better sensitive to overstimulation and just giving them the quiet time to enjoy themselves. It's so important. So thank you.
Just so you know, we're gonna work with Saratoga Bridges, and Mary Beth Walsh has a lot of contacts there, and it's gonna be 10 to 1 for those kids, and then 1 to. So,
Thank you.
yes.
It was 10 to 12. We'll discuss.
We'll just.
Either way.
You gotta get on one.
And, you know, our stop by Natalia's Play Hollow the other day, just to see the care that she takes in those types of situations and hearing stories that Mandy Ryder told about the library she visited. You realize how important that is, how prevalent it is in this society right now, and how we need to do the best we can for those children. So thank you for that. Indeed, Liz, you wanted to say something?
No, leave it.
Okay.
Do it.
Bob Bush.
Bob Bush, 71 Church Ave. I was gonna say around 9:15, because you guys moved pretty quick. Congratulations, but that went right out the window, guys. One thing I did notice is that one of you, I'm not gonna pinpoint, I'm not gonna call names, that's not what I'm about. It appeared you weren't prepared for the meeting, because you're flipping through, seeing emails, you didn't have the documents, so on and so forth. You guys gotta be better be prepared. You guys got, Sean, you talk about having discussion before the meeting, so you can dissolve things. What are you guys doing? Have that discussion, have those things, so you come in here and you bang yourself out, so you're not here for 3 or 4 freaking hours. There's nothing wrong with doing that behind the scenes. Instead of arguing about the emails and this and that, just get it done. Never mind this crap, guys. Come on, you're better than that.
You know, I completely agree with what you just said, and Pride Month is a good example of that, where we were trying to introduce that topic and see what we could do, but we never heard back from you. You said we could do other things, Frank. What? We would love to do other things. We never got any other ideas from you. So if you want to introduce ideas and have us discuss them before the meeting so that we're all prepared, we don't have to have a long conversation, that would be a great thing to work on.
Ben, when's the last time you picked up the phone? Thank
Thank you.
Where's the email, Frank? And then
When's the last
when's
time
the
you
last
picked up
time
the
you
phone?
picked up the phone and called me, Frank?
Any day of the week I would, if there's something that directly I want to talk to you about. This is something you want to know from me. And I
was
didn't feel
communicating
comfortable
with the
any
entire
further
team.
going in that public.
It's hard to do a phone call with the whole board at a time, so you use email for that purpose.
No, I just, you and me, we can have a call.
I agree. Let's talk more often. Let's talk weekly.
Please.
All right, let's do
The
it.
point I was trying to make is a lot of stuff needs to be done beforehand, so you're not like doing this, where you pick up the phone, email, sit down for a cup of coffee, something, guys, because it's getting out of hand, it's getting ridiculous. I'm not the only one, I'm sure, that feels this way and sees it. I mean, you watch all your crowd online because it's crap.
No, I
And,
asked.
and making this public and trying to make this political, whichever way you want to talk about it, you're doing it him doing it to you, it doesn't freaking matter. You're not doing it to be political here. You guys are just trying to solve an issue. So get the political crap out of the way, and solve the damn issue. That's the name of the game. That's what you guys are there for. That's what we pay your salaries for. Just do it. Never mind the bickering. That's my 2 cents. Ain't worth crap. That's my 2
I
cents.
had suggested a regular meeting where the two of us could sit down. Never heard that. When we first reached out to me, we had one initial meeting, it was fine, and I suggested we do it on a regular basis. So we sit down over a cup of coffee and talk. Do that with other trustees, or, you know, but you didn't seem interested.
I kind of do advertise coffee with the mayor. You are more than welcome to join
No,
me.
I thought coffee as a mayor is more for the public than for your trustees.
You can come. What's stopping you?
Okay, well, I don't want to, you know.
Well, I can't have 2 of you there, but I mean, I can have
No,
one.
but I mean, if a person from the public wants to talk to you, as a trustee, I figure we can do it another time.
If somebody wants to ask questions, 2 of us here to answer. It's even better.
Well,
All right, we'll call you.
Okay.
Well, let me call this meeting to a close with the following statement.
Another
Here,
statement.
Bob, I'm unprepared or something. Here we go. No executive session necessary. Can I get a motion that vouchers number 22-01221 to 22-02219 be audited? The meeting be adjourned at 10:04 p.m.
I will make that motion.
Trustee Raymond, quiet tonight.
I'll say.
Trustee Corvus. All in favor, after discussion, there is none, aye. Opposed.
So, I mean,
No, I was wondering, I'm like, this is gonna be recorded.
I might after all that bring up sidewalk. So
Okay,
I just want to check my. So if I say, the